Chapter 61 _ Is she going to live with me? First more. I'll live with you these 2 weeks. Uchiha Makoto grabbed Lee Yi's hands. His face was serious. He breathed a fragrance towards Lee Yi's face, and said, "This way, it can not only help you practice your ability, but also protect your safety, killing 2 birds with 1 stone." Lee Yi was stunned. He did not expect that Uchiha Makoto would make such a decision. He was playing hard to catch, just trying to get some benefits from Uchiha Makoto. For example, life-saving weapons, magic weapons to escape. Things like that. But he didn't expect that he actually tricked Uchiha Makoto into his own home. This kind of beauty actually wants to live with her. Oh my god. Lee Yi suddenly had an unreal feeling. When Uchiha Yonchiang heard Uchiha Makoto's words, his eyes widened and he hurriedly said, "Makoto, you have to think twice about this kind of thing, it's about your reputation. The goddess he likes, wants to live with another man. How can this be? I firmly oppose it." Course, Uchiha Makoto's beautiful face had a very firm look. She shook her head and said, "If it wasn't for him, I would be dead by now. What's the matter with my reputation? But, Miss Makoto, 1 yardage is another. Even if he is our savior, you can't repay him like this. There must be other ways." Uchiha Yonchiang strongly persuaded. However, Uchiha Makoto still shook his head and said, "I think doing this is the best way to repay him. There is an old saying that it is better to teach a man to fish than to give him a fish. Stimulate his ability and let him have the foundation of settling down in his career, so that he can truly repay his kindness." Quote. Uchiha Makoto is smart and eloquent, so her eloquence is also top-notch. So. This time. But. Uchiha Yonchiang didn't know how to refute, and was anxious like an ant on a hot pan. Makoto must never be allowed to live with other men. Absolutely not. In Uchiha Yonchiang's head, he was thinking frantically to refute Uchiha Makoto's plan. "Lee Yi, what do you think?" Uchiha Makoto didn't want to pay attention to Uchiha Yonchiang. She turned her head to look at Lee Yi, her voice soft like water. Lee Yi swallowed a mouthful of saliva. This. It seems like a big game. A lively beauty actually asked to live with her. Such a good thing, how many men can't ask for it? However, Lee Yi didn't want that. Not at all. 1. He doesn't have much interest in beauty now. He just wants to improve his strength and have the foundation of a foothold. 2. What will Tsunade think once Tsunade comes back and finds out that he is living with another woman? To be honest, although the appearance of Uchiha Makoto is almost the same as Tsunade, they are both equally charming, but their temperament is completely different. Uchiha Makoto is a gentle and kind wife type, while Tsunade is a mature and charming royal sister type, and Tsunade has a proud and unruly wildness in his bones. Lee Yi don't want Tsunade to misunderstand. So, he wanted to reject Uchiha Makoto. Lee Yi, is not that kind of lecherous man. So, Lee Yi planned to refuse. However, Uchiha Makoto seemed to see Lee Yi's refusal taste, and suddenly Lu Mei frowned, his pupils condensed, facing Lee Yi, and turned on Sharingan. Lee Yi only felt that his eyes were black and his head became blank. However, almost at the same time, in Lee Yi's mind, the system's clear and pleasant voice suddenly sounded, "Ding." Detected that the host is in the demonic illusion, and the system will help the host to remove the demonic illusion on its own. 3, 2, 1, release succeeded. When the crisp sound of the system fell, Lee Yi's eyes became bright again. He thought there was an enemy sneak attack, and hurriedly looked around. However, where is the shadow of the enemy around? Whether it was Uchiha Makoto, Uchiha Yonchiang, or himself and Violet, they were all standing on the ground safe and sound. Nothing happened. It's just that Uchiha Makoto is rubbing his left eye at the moment, which seems to be a little uncomfortable. Lee Yi frowned, he was careful, and noticed something was wrong. Immediately, Lee Yi asked, "Uchiha Makoto, what's wrong with your eyes, are you alright? It's alright. Uchiha Makoto shook his head slightly. However, as soon as she finished speaking, she seemed to sense something was wrong, and suddenly raised her head to look at Li Yi, with a slightly shocked expression on her beautiful face. My demonic illusion can last at least a minute or so, but how can he? The next moment, the shocked look on Uchiha Makoto's pretty face disappeared without a trace. Because Uchiha Makoto's face changed extremely quickly, Li Yi didn't catch it. But he still sensed something was wrong. Seeing that Uchiha Makoto was still looking at himself, he asked, "What's the matter, is there something on my face?" "No." Uchiha Makoto shook his head lightly, then looked back and said, "Since you have promised me, then after we return to Konoha village, you can move in and live with me." Huh? Li Yi was taken aback. When did I promise you? Could it be when I was in demonic illusion? Li Yi turned his head and looked at Violet beside him. Violet nodded. The meaning is obvious. Well, yes, you did agree just now, my lord. Li Yi frowned slightly. This woman is using demonic illusion on me. Li Yi suddenly wanted to beat Uchiha Makoto. Although Li Yi knew that Uchiha Makoto had good intentions, he still couldn't bear it. Don't impose your own ideas on others. So, Li Yi is a little angry. Then, for revenge, Li Yi said directly and domineeringly. Why should I move in? You move in and live in my house. As soon as these words came out, Uchiha Yongqiang's face immediately turned ashen. He wanted to scold Li Yi. Although Li Yi is his savior, this savior is too much, right? Doesn't he know that Makoto is Lao Su's prey? Also, how noble and arrogant Sister Makoto is. How could she agree to such a wretched request from you? She asked you to live with her, and in her heart, there are probably 10,000 people who don't want to. How are you, still stepping on your nose? Shameless. Makoto will definitely reject you. Well, I will reject you for Sister Makoto. So, Uchiha Yongqiang wanted to speak. But at this moment, Uchiha Makoto suddenly nodded and said, "Okay, when we get back to the village, I'll pack up Lee and move to your house." Ah! Uchiha Yongqiang's words that had reached his throat were forced back into his stomach. What a miserable man. This is the first update. The next update will be around 1800 in the evening. Ask for a silver ticket and ask for a silver ticket. Chapter 62-Conversation Part 2. Uchiha Yongqiang never thought that Uchiha Makoto promised Li Yi just like that. You know, Uchiha Makoto is in the Uchiha family, but he is notoriously noble and arrogant. Pursue Uchiha Makoto. However, no man could get into her eyes. This woman never talks nonsense with men. Including Uchiha Fugaku, Uchiha Yongqiang. Fugaku is the most talented, powerful and maddened person in the Uchiha family generation. He has liked Uchiha Makoto since he was a child, and often takes Uchiha Makoto's words. However, even in the face of such genius, Uchiha Makoto is not interested. For Uchiha Fugaku's favor, she chose to turn a blind eye and turn a blind eye. As for Uchiha Yongqiang, although he has been following Uchiha Makoto on missions, there is very little conversation between the two. They stayed together all day. Uchiha Yongqiang wanted to get close to Uchiha Makoto so as to develop the relationship between them, but Uchiha Makoto was always doing his duty. This reminds Uchiha Yongqiang of a saying that has been circulating in the Uchiha family for the past few years. Uchiha's number one beauty, isn't she interested in men? She is already 18 or 19 years old, and it is the age to talk about marriage, but she has never been in contact with other men. What is this? Long time ago, Uchiha Yongqiang believed this sentence, but he still did not give up on attacking Uchiha Makoto. After all, the principle of long-time love is understood even by fools. However, he and Uchiha Makoto have performed many tasks, so many days, it is long enough, but there is no love. This way, Uchiha Yongqiang believes more and more that Uchiha Makoto, the number one beauty of the Uchiha family, is really not interested in men. Because of this, when he heard Uchiha Makoto's suggestion, his face immediately collapsed. And when he heard Li Yi's words, he was immediately angry. You actually want the number one beauty of the Uchiha family to move into your house and live with you? Dream. But Uchiha Makoto actually agreed. Agreed without hesitation. This makes Uchiha Yongqiang feel very unreal. I should be dreaming. No, I must be dreaming. He thought so. However, the pain of pinching his thigh with his right hand made him realize that this was not a dream at all. All this is real. From now on, his goddess, the first beauty of the Uchiha family, will live with this handsome man in front of him. Tell the truth, at this moment, Uchiha Yongqiang has a feeling of, the sky is falling. He only felt that his head was buzzing, and because of this, he did not hear the next conversation between Uchiha Makoto and Li Yi. Uchiha Makoto said, "When are you going to leave this village?" Li Yi replied, "Let's talk about recovery in a few days." How many days are days? Uchiha Makoto asked. Li Yi thought for a moment and said, "About 2 or 3 days. After 2 or 3 days, his body will return to its original state." Hearing Li Yi's answer, Uchiha Makoto nodded lightly and said, "Okay, then you can rest here for a few days. I'll go back first and report what happened here to Lord Hokage." Hearing this, Li Yi narrowed his eyes. In other words, the means he just got will be exposed. I thought about it for a while. Expose it. Anyway, this kind of thing is just a fire that cannot be contained in paper, and it will be exposed sooner or later. Therefore, Li Yi nodded lightly and said, "Okay. Well, I'll go back to the village, and Yongqiang will stay to protect you." Uchiha Makoto said. No. Li Yi didn't even think about it, just shook his head. Why? Uchiha Makoto winked. Glancing at Uchiha Yongqiang, whose face was ashen and doubting his life, Li resolutely said, "Why are you still asking me? Can't you see why?" With a light cough, Li Yi said, "I'm quite safe here. Besides, if danger occurs, I can use the space to transfer to escape." Come on, it takes a minute for your space transfer ability to activate, and once activated, it will deplete your only trace of chakra again. At that time, it will not be as simple as being in a coma for 3 days. After all, in a short time the damage to the body caused by 2 consecutive collapses is not ordinary. Quote. Uchiha Makoto flipped a good-looking Byakugan and said. It seemed that Li Yi didn't want to stay with Uchiha Yongqiang, so Uchiha Makoto didn't force it and said, "Well, Yongqiang and I will go back to the village first, and I'll wait for you in 2 days. It could also be 3 days later." Li Yi said with a smile. Don't delay too long, remember, you're from Konoha village. Uchiha Makoto's voice suddenly lowered, reminding him. Her face was very serious, a book of truth. Obviously, she was worried that a person with great power like Li Yi was always out there. Once she had a different heart and became a traitor, it would be bad. Li Yi nodded. Suddenly, Li Yi seemed to remember something, and immediately asked, "This time, she and her brother were the ones who saved you with me. Now these 2 brothers and sisters want to go back to Konoha village with me, but they not from Konoha, so, can you have an idea?" You mean, you want them to be Konoha villagers? Uchiha Makoto asked. Li Yi nodded. Well, almost. No matter which country Violet and Tianbao belong to, they will always belong to Li Yi. It doesn't matter which country you are, as long as you are sincere. Therefore, Lin Chen did not answer, yes, but answered, almost. At this moment, Uchiha Makoto looked at Violet beside Li Yi and asked, Sister, you are descended from the Uzumaki clan, right? Violet didn't answer, but turned to look at Li Yi. Li Yi nodded. Then Violet nodded lightly and replied, That's right. Uchiha Makoto gave Li Yi a surprised look. Without making any more comments, Uchiha Makoto said, I have a girlfriend who is also a descendant of the Uzumaki family. I believe you two will get along very well. Hearing this, Lee Yi's mouth twitched. Uchiha Makoto's best friend is Uzumaki Kushina. They are about the same age, but their temperaments are diametrically opposite. Uzumaki Kushina is a violent temper. Every time she gets angry, her yuhi hair will stand up, like a yuhi-colored pepper, which is very terrifying. Because of this, people are given the nickname, Uzumaki Pepper. And Uchiha Makoto is gentle like water, kind and warm, different from Uzumaki Kushina. Of course, the temper that Uchiha Makoto is showing now is as cold as Conan, but Lee Yi, who has read countless women, has a feeling, that is. It is only because he is not familiar with Uchiha Makoto that Uchiha Makoto is so cold. Once Uchiha Makoto trusts Lee Yi and loses her guard, then her temperament will change drastically. For this, Lee Yi is very much looking forward to. This chapter is a big chapter, and the number of words is much more than before. So, the world continues to lick its face and ask for silver tickets tilde. Chapter 63 Development Power. Third more. Makoto and Uchiha Yongchiang, the two walked together. Lee Yi didn't send them either. He took Violet and called Tianbao, and came to the room. Lee Yi didn't beat around the bush and asked directly, You two, would you like to go to Konoha village with me? As soon as these words came out, Tianbao was slightly taken aback. Violet didn't care, she said lightly, I will. How about you? Lee Yi turned to look at Tianbao. Tianbao didn't answer, his face was a little ugly, and he seemed to be embarrassed. You killed a lot of ninjas in Konoha village during the Second Ninja War, didn't you? Lee Yi asked. Tianbao nodded. Then don't go. Lee Yi said. Okay, my lord. Tianbao breathed a sigh of relief. Let him go to Konoha village, it is better to let him die. Although he has already followed Lee Yi, in his bones, he still has a lot of resentment towards Konoha village. Lee Yi turned to look at Violet again and asked, What about you, are you still going? My lord, this little girl's life is saved by you. Wherever you go, the little girl will go. Violet replied without hesitation. Want to be separated from your brother? Lee Yi teased a smile. I don't want to. Violet shook her head slightly. Oh. Lee Yi raised his eyes. Sir, I don't dare to deceive you, but you are my master, I will always follow you, shelter you from the wind and rain, and help you go up the mountain of swords and the sea of fire. Violet made a fist with her right hand and placed it on her left heart mouth, and said each section. Hearing this, Lee Yi patted Violet's shoulder. He could feel Violet's loyalty. He also knew that the main reason why Violet was so loyal to him was because of the shock of that pill. However, Lee Yi doesn't care about that either. As long as Violet and Tianbao are loyal, it doesn't matter what means they use. So, Lee Yi lightly patted Violet Land's shoulder and said, Then just follow me. Thank you sir for making it happen. The Violet Stinger nodded lightly, with a sincere attitude. As for you. Lee Yi turned his head again and looked at Tianbao. Tianbao is at the mercy of the adults. Tianbao lowered his head and said forcefully. Lee Yi didn't answer, but turned his head and glanced at the door and window. Violet understood, and immediately closed the door and window, and also set up a simple enchantment. The enchantment technique belongs to the sealing technique, so Violet knows a little bit. Violet stepped back. Lee Yi nodded in appreciation. This little girl's eyesight is so sharp. I like this kind of guy. Later, Lee Yi looked at Tianbao again and said, Since you don't follow me, then you should be outside and develop your own power. When Tianbao heard this, his body trembled slightly. Develop your own power. Why do adults do this? Do adults want to? Tianbao was very puzzled, but he didn't ask much. He knows the rules. However, Lee Yi saw Tianbao's doubts. He explained with a smile, Hee, you are right, I want to have my own power. Hearing this, Tianbao couldn't bear it any longer and asked directly, But, my lord, aren't you from Konoha village? Why did you set up your own faction outside the village? For this question, Li Yi did not intend to hide it, and replied, because, I don't know, when will I fall out with Konoha village? Huh. Tianbao opened his mouth with a look of disbelief. People say that the people of the country of fire are the greatest people in the world. They are loyal to the country of fire, to the will of fire, and to the people of the country of fire. They are the most united collective and will never betray. Therefore, Tianbao was shocked when he heard that Li Yi was going to establish his own faction. And now, when Li Yi said something like, falling out with Konoha village, Tianbao was even more shocked. But in the end, Tianbao didn't say much, but with a plop, he knelt down halfway, lowered his head and said, follow your orders. Tianbao will definitely live up to the expectations of the adults. Li Yi nodded with satisfaction, and then said again, remember one sentence, the essence is not much more expensive. Precious essence is not much more expensive. Yes, Tianbao remembered it. Tianbao lowered his head and nodded, his voice strong and powerful. Everything that should be explained has already been explained. With the help of Violet, Li Yi walked out of the room and went to exercise. After doing a few push-ups, sit-ups, and pull-ups, Li Yi's physical strength was basically exhausted, his brain swelled, and his eyes dizzy. A heavy drowsiness swept over. He stretched and yawned. Sir, do you want to sleep? Violet had been by her side, and when she saw Li Yi yawning, she immediately asked softly. Sleep. Li Yi nodded. Li Yi's own room stinks. Therefore, he still slept in Violet's warm and fragrant room. Violet has washed the original sheets, mattresses, quilts, and put on a brand new suit. After returning to the room, Violet supported Li Yi and asked, Sir, you are not feeling well, do you need me to warm your bed? As soon as these words came out, Li Yi slowly turned his head and glanced at Violet. Violet's little face is slightly Yuhi, charming and beautiful. Li Yi smiled teasingly and said, it seems that the cow guy has made you do this kind of shit a lot. Sister cow is frail and afraid of cold. Every autumn, winter and spring, she will let me warm the bed. Violet said. Is that so? Li Yi nodded and patted Violet's little hand. If that's the case, then I'll trouble you. The kindness that comes to the door, the fool does not want it. So, Violet got into the quilt. To be honest, Li Yi's physical strength has recovered a lot, and his functions have basically recovered. So, looking at the beauty on the bed, he thought. Cough, cough. However, he hasn't started yet. Crunch. The door was suddenly opened. A faint milky scent came from behind. Li Yi knew who was pushing the door and asked immediately with a smile, Sister Cow, what's the matter? Because several people died in the village, the cows have been busy with their work these days. Now that things are over, the cows are free. She asked with a smile, I can't come over to chat with you if I have nothing to do. Of course you can. Li Yi nodded. A cow in plain clothes walked to Li Yi's side, and saw a woman lying on the bed with no clothes on. Immediately, she covered her mouth with her small hand, pretending to be surprised. Oh. Did I disturb your good deeds? As soon as these words came out, Violet's cheeks were big Yuhi, and she hurriedly grabbed the quilt to cover half of her beautiful face. Li Yi grinned and said, seriously, well, yes, it is indeed disturbing. This is the third chapter of today's update, so the world continues to ask for silver tickets. Chapter 64-Faithful Violet Part 1. Li Yi fell asleep in the warm blanket. Violet and the cow stood outside the door, talking about the housework between women. Cow sat on the stone steps and asked, are you really going? Violet sat beside the cow, her head lightly tapped. Can he be trusted? Asked the cow. I don't know. Violet shook her head slightly. You don't know, are you going with him? The cow narrowed her beautiful eyes slightly and asked. I can't either. Violet shook her head. he is my master, and I will obey his orders." Hearing this, the cow sighed lightly and said, "Oh, yes, if I knew today, I shouldn't have let you recognize him as the master, and let Tianbao, the bastard, recognize him as the master. Actually, this incident, for me, is not a grievance." Violet shook her head lightly and said, "He saved my life, and I follow him for the rest of my life, which is reasonable." The cow didn't speak, just patted Violet on the shoulder. Suddenly, the cow's eyes lit up, as if thinking of something, and immediately asked, "By the way, sister, his real name is not Yila, right?" Violet was taken aback. "Actually, I already guessed it." Cow smiled. "We wanted to kill him, how could he tell his real name?" "So, what's his name?" Violet was a little hesitant, glanced at the door behind her, and didn't seem to want to answer. "Don't worry, he's asleep and can't hear him." The cow put an arm around Violet's shoulder and said with a smile, "Besides, he is not our enemy now, so what if we know his real name? So, sister, let's talk." Violet struggled for a while. In the end, he shook his head slightly and said, "No, I can't say it." "So faithful." The corner of the cow's eye is picked. "Be loyal to people." Violet explained, "Sorry, cow, I can't give his real name without his permission." Okay, I won't ask any more." The cow turned over a good-looking Byakugan, and then she stood up from the ground, grabbed her right arm with her left hand, and stretched a charming lazy waist, causing XX1do. "Thank you, Lady Cow, for your understanding," Violet said. The cow stood opposite Violet and said, "Violet, as I parted, my sister has a few words that I would like to tell you. I wonder if you would like to hear it." "Sister, just say it, I'm listening." Violet nodded gently and smiled. "Number 1, that little brother from Konoha village gives me a very gloomy feeling." The cow stretched out her right index finger and said, Violet's head lightly nodded, not surprised at all, as if she had felt it long ago. "Second, for the safety of his own life, he may abandon you at any time." The cow stretched out the middle finger of her right hand again and said, Violet still nodded lightly, her expression unchanged, as if she had expected it. Cow frowned slightly and asked, "I'm telling you this, just to keep you in mind." "Thank you, sister." Violet smiled slightly. "Why do I feel you are being perfunctory?" The cow's brows furrowed even tighter. Violet explained, "My life was saved by him. If it wasn't for him, I would have turned into a lot of Lois by now. It is necessary for me to give my own life for him." Hearing this, the cow immediately tapped Violet's head lightly with 2 fingers, pretending to be angry, and said, "What a stubborn one. The grace of saving life should be repaid with life." Violet smiled and said, "If one day, I need to protect him with my life, then I will not hesitate." Hearing this, the cow got a little angry, pinched Xiaoman's waist with both hands, and said, "You finally survived, why don't you cherish your life so much?" "Sister, I know your kindness, and I also know that you took care of me for 3 years, but don't persuade me about this matter. For the rest of my life, everything I have is his." Violet said seriously, "This is looking for a husband." Cow turned over a Byakugan, said. Violet shook her head gently, "I'm afraid the adults will not look down on me." "You are so beautiful, no man will look down on you unless he has no eyes." The cow stroked Violet's long yuhi-colored hair and said, "Okay, I won't advise you anymore. You have grown up and have your own opinions. As a sister, I can't control you anymore. Sister Cow, I have always regarded you as my own sister." Violet looked at the eyes of the cow and said seriously. The cow only felt a sour nose. "Silly girl, I have always regarded you as my own sister." She stroked Violet's long hair and said, "Sister, I miss you." "Sister, I will come back often in the future," Violet assured. "You entered the village of Konoha later, how could the lord of your family want you to come back?" The cow said angrily. Violet didn't explain, but reassured, "Sister Cow, Really, I will definitely come back often in the future. Li Yi let Tianbao develop his power. Tianbao must be centered on Anning village. In this case, Li Yi will definitely come to visit often. Even if Li Yi didn't come in person, he would send Violet over. Therefore, Violet will make this guarantee. Okay, I won't talk nonsense with you anymore. The third point. The cow stretched out the ring finger of his right hand again, with 3 fingers standing in front of his eyes, and said, "Your lord is a person who will do anything to achieve his goals. You must remember this." Violet nodded thoughtfully. Okay, just these 3 points, as long as you remember, then you can follow him in the future, it will be a little easier. The cow said with a smile. Thank you, Lady Cow. Violet said, and then stretched out 2 little hands and let the cow hold it. Women are always so hypocritical. Men are not like that. Just imagine the scene where 2 big men hold hands with each other. That's disgusting. And the words between women are always not enough. I do not know how long it has been. Night fell gradually. It was dark. Cow asked, "Will you come to my house for dinner?" Violet shook her head. No. Why? Asked the cow in confusion. Violet glanced at the door behind her. Cow understood instantly and said, "He doesn't know when he will wake up, let's not wait for him." My lord, I haven't eaten cooked food in the past few days. I'm always eating ninja dry food. I want to cook a hot meal for him after he wakes up. Violet said. You're so caring, you've never been so caring to me, I'm a little jealous. The cow rubbed Violet's delicate little face and said, in my opinion, he not only accepted a servant, but also married a concubine, which is really enviable. This is the first update, the next update is around 2000. The world is looking for silver tickets. Chapter 65-Farewell Meal Part 2. A day later. At dusk. Cow's home. Li Yi sat opposite the cow. Between the two, there is a table. There are 6 dishes on the table. There are meat and vegetables. Li Yi took a bite of the meat dish and chewed it in his mouth, it was very delicious. Li Yi's face. Not to mention, Violet's cooking skills are very good. This made Li Yi feel more and more what the right decision was to bring Violet back. Isn't it delicious? The cow asked with a smile. Li Yi nodded, it's really delicious. In the past, Violet's sister Ten cooked for me, and I have trained my cooking skills. Cow said, although she hasn't cooked in the past few years, she is still young. Violet was still busy in the kitchen at this time. Cow shouted, Violet, 6 dishes are enough, don't be busy, come and eat. Violet was in the kitchen, shouting and answering, there is 1 more dish, which will be ready soon, you wait. Well, this little girl doesn't listen to me now. The cow shrugged helplessly. Li Yi smiled. She doesn't listen to you, but she listens to me. However, even so, Li Yi did not interrupt Violet. Because he felt that for Violet, cooking was not tiring, but a pleasure. Little brother, in the future Violet will follow you, you have to be nice to him. Cow stared at Li Yi's eyes and said seriously. I will. Li Yi nodded lightly. If it wasn't for the cow, then Li Yi would be dead by now. Li Yi is a person who knows how to be grateful. Therefore, his attitude towards cows has always been very gentle. Cow added, Violet is a girl after all. I know. Li Yi nodded. Just know. The cow nodded and smiled. At this time, Violet walked in with a bowl of meat dishes. She put the dishes on the table. There are 7 dishes in total. Violet said, there is 1 more soup, which will be finished soon. After speaking, Violet turned around and left. Violet, these dishes are enough. Even if Tianbao's little bastard comes, the 4 of us can't eat so much. Don't be too busy, just sit down and eat. The cow persuaded. Sister cow, that soup will be finished soon, so don't be busy. Violet smiled and turned to leave. Cow said angrily at Li Yi, you don't care about her. Li Yi smiled. For Violet, cooking is a pleasure, what does it make him do? In fact, Li Yi also knew that this meal was a farewell meal. After eating tonight's meal, tomorrow, he and Violet will leave the village. Tianbao, that little bastard, why hasn't he come yet? The cow complained again. He might be in trouble. Li Yi said. In fact, Li Yi knew that Tianbao was out now, looking for suitable seedlings. That's right, he is forming his own power. However, this morning, Violet told him that he was going to have a farewell meal tonight. So, Tempo will definitely be back. No, Li Yi talked to the cow for a while. Tianbao walked into the house with a bowl of hot soup. Violet followed behind Tianbao. After Tianbao put the soup on the table, he said, I'm sorry, I'm late. 3 cups of penalty, said the cow angrily. Sister cow, I can't drink. Tianbao scratched his head and smiled apologetically. Li Yi said with a smile, it's okay to drink a little. Tianbao then agreed, okay. There are a total of 8 dishes on the square table. Very rich. Li Yi sat opposite the cow. Violet and Tempo are sitting opposite each other. After reciting a prayer, the 4 started to eat. The food is also delicious. Soup is delicious. However, there is no lasting banquet under the sun. After a long time, the 4 of them all finished eating. Li Yi also drank a little wine, but not much, only a little drunk. Tianbao was so drunk that he couldn't speak well. Violet didn't drink. After all, a girl can't drink. What surprised Li Yi most was that the cow's alcohol intake was even greater than that of him and Tianbao combined. That's right, tonight, the cow drank more wine than the 2 men combined. Tianbao was lying on the table and said inarticulately, Sister cow, you are a real woman. I thought you only drink milk, not alcohol. As soon as these words came out, the cow slapped Tianbao mercilessly on the head. Crack. A crisp sound. However, because Tianbao was already drunk, he didn't feel much pain, he just asked unfavorably, Sister cow, you are so beautiful, do you have a man? Why, do you want to be my man? The cow put the wine glass in his hand and asked with a smile. Actually, I have coveted your body for a long time. You have such a good figure, you are not ugly, you are so plump. Tianbao was lying on the table, muttering and talking. Violet's face changed slightly, trying to dissuade Tianbao. Li Yi smiled and patted Violet's right hand, signaling her to leave it alone. Then, Li Yi gave Violet another wink. Violet understands. She gave Tianbao a worried look. Tempo was still mumbling. The cows listened happily. Violet sighed softly. Without any hesitation, she and Li Yi got up and walked out quietly. And closed the door. The 2 left the cow's home. Li Yi walked in front and said with a smile, Tianbao is telling the truth after drinking. My lord, you can't believe what you say after drinking. Violet said worriedly. Don't worry, your brother is a big man, he won't be able to suffer from this kind of thing. Li Yi said with a half smile, besides, they're a good match. But. Violet sighed softly. It didn't go on. Seems to have given up. I used to be called my elder sister, then I will be called my sister-in-law, haha. Li Yi gave a wicked smile. Hearing the words, Violet sighed again. Li Yi is looking forward to the development of the relationship between Tianbao and Daryu. Except for Violet, the most beautiful woman in this village is the cow. Therefore, rationing cows to Tianbao is not a loss. I just don't know if Tianbao can seize this opportunity tonight. But having said that, the feeling of Yu Lao pulling Yuhi's line was quite fun. Interesting. However, at this moment, Violet seemed to have noticed something, her expression changed, and she hurriedly ran in front of Li Yi. Almost at the same time. Call out. A handful of black kunai fell from the sky and landed on the ground in front of Violet. Moreover, there are strange and complicated runes on the handle of kunai. This kind of rune made Li Yi feel very familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. 2200 in the evening. The world continues to ask for silver tickets. Chapter 66 Namikaze Minato Part 3. Violet stood in front of Li Yi. On the ground in front of Violet, there was a kunai. Just when Li Yi was wondering, "Call out, call out, call out," the sound of breaking the air sounded again. More than a dozen kunai descended from the sky and landed on the ground around Li Yi. Seeing this scene, Li Yi was slightly taken aback. Is the other party short-sighted? That's right, no way. Logically speaking, these afflictions should all fall on me, not on the earth. However, what made Li Yi puzzled again was that there were those strange runes on the handles of these kunais. Li Yi has an inexplicable familiarity with this peculiar rune. I must have seen this rune somewhere before. Li resolutely said. Sir, the visitor is not good, you hide behind me and don't walk around. At this time, Violet in front of her spoke and said in a low voice. However, Li Yi hasn't replied yet. Swish. A figure instantly appeared in front of Violet. It's like a teleportation in space. No, drop the word, like. It is space teleportation. Violet's face changed, and she immediately wanted to step back. However, before she had time to step back, suddenly, a sharp kunai landed on Violet's neck. And this kunai is the kunai that was inserted on the ground before. Don't move. The other party put kuwu around Violet's neck and made a low voice. Violet slowly raised her hands in a state of surrender. In fact, she surrendered on purpose, and wanted to take the opportunity to sneak attack, hold the other party, and let Li Yi escape. However, before she could do it, Li Yi's slightly surprised voice suddenly sounded, "Are you Namikaze Minato?" Oh. Hearing Li Yi's words, the other party's eyes flashed and he asked, "You know me?" Li Yi smiled. "I know you. Why don't I know about you?" With yellow hair and teleportation, anyone who has watched Hokage knows that you are the fourth generation of Hokage, Namikaze Minato. However, it's only 38 years of Konoha, and the third generation Hokage is in the middle-aged period, so Namikaze Minato has not yet taken the lead. Looking at Namikaze Minato's handsome face, Li Yi said, "I'm also from Konoha village." You're from Konoha village, so what are you doing here? Namikaze Minato asked cautiously. Li Yi explained, "The country of water captured nearly 20 people from our Konoha village, and I was one of them. I escaped to this village." The land of water, isn't it the land of thunder? Namikaze Minato frowned and asked. This is the country of water's framing of the country of thunder. Li Yi said, and then asked, "However, what are you doing here?" "Why should I tell you?" Namikaze Minato, obviously not believing Li Yi, asked. "I know even if you don't tell me." Li Yi smiled and said, "You have been chasing Uchiha Makoto, or the breath of Uchiha Yangqiang, that's why you came here, right?" Hearing this, Namikaze Minato's eyes flashed, the kunai in his hand directly pressed against the surface of the skin on Violet's neck, and asked, "That is to say, those two people from the Uchiha family have really stayed here before?" Li Yi didn't hide it, and nodded lightly, "I've been there." Later, Li Yi said again, "It seems that you are here to save them." "What about them?" Namikaze Minato stared at Li Yi and asked, with a dangerous aura all over his body. Li Yi glanced at the kunai in Namikaze Minato's hands. "This bitterness, if you go further, I am afraid it will cut through the white and tender skin of Violet." Li Yi squinted his eyes and said, "They have already returned to Konoha village." "Go back." Namikaze Minato was stunned. Didn't they get caught by the Rain Kingdom? Who rescued them? It's the beauty in front of you who, together with me, rescued her. Li Yi said lightly. Huh. Namikaze Minato was still a little unconvinced, staring at Li Yi. "I don't have to lie to you." Li Yi shrugged nonchalantly and said, "If you don't believe me, you can go back to Konoha village to see if what I said is true or false. Hearing this, Namikaze Minato removed Kue from Violet's smooth jade neck. Seeing this scene, Li Yi smiled. Afterwards, Li Yi asked, "How did you sense the aura of the two of Uchiha and find them all the way here?" "I have my method." Put away the kunai and said. Hearing this, Li Yi's face became cautious, and he murmured softly, "Since you have a way, then the people in the land of rain must also have a way. No, this place can't stay." At the same time, Li resolutely said, "No wonder that after Uzumaki Kushina was captured, this guy was able to find her and save her. It seems that it was also because of this kind of ninjutsu." In the original book of Hokage, Namikaze Minato saved Uzumaki Kushina when he was 12 or 13 years old, and captured Uzumaki Kushina's heart with this. At that time, Li Yi also thought, why only Namikaze Minato, a 12 or 13-year-old boy who didn't even grow his hair, could find Uzumaki Kushina, while other ninjas, including many Jonin, couldn't find him. Is this the so-called protagonist Halo? No, the protagonist's father Halo. Now it seems that it is because Namikaze Minato knows this unique ninjutsu. However, since Namikaze Minato can do this kind of ninjutsu, maybe there are people in the country of rain who can do similar ninjutsu. Therefore, can't stay in this place any longer. To see Li Yi's concern, Namikaze Minato said, "This is the forbidden technique invented by the second-generation Hokage adults. Except for the people in Konoha village, other countries will not use it, so you can rest assured." Li Yi shook his head and said, "It's hard to say. Since Senju Tobarama can invent this kind of ninjutsu, others can invent it too." Namikaze Minato frowned slightly. Not only because Li Yi doesn't believe him. It's more because the man in front of him actually called the second-generation Lord Hokage by his name. At this time, Li Yi pulled Violet behind him, confronted Namikaze Minato, and asked, "Are you here with Uchiha Fugaku and others to rescue the two of Uchiha?" Hearing this, a strange color flashed in Namikaze Minato's blue pupils. "Oh." Li Yi explained, "I was in the Hokage office at the time." Hearing this, Namikaze Minato's guard against Li Yi relaxed a little. He already believed in Lin Chen 70% to 80%. Li Yi glanced at the kunai that was stuck on the ground around him. Yellow flash, the art of Hiraishin, and the kunai in this circle, this is preparing to use the spiral flash super wheel dance and roar 3 style, on me. Li Yi secretly smiled in his heart. As a veteran Hokage fan, Li Yi remembers these strange moves of Namikaze Minato, especially the moves with strange names. You know, in the last life, when Li Yi suffered from secondary school illness when he was a child, he shouted the names of these moves all day long, and it was still the kind of non-stop. This is the third update. Today's update is over. The world continues to ask for silver tickets. Chapter 67_Ins and Outs Part 1. In the original Hokage, Namikaze Minato is a handsome man. Now, Namikaze Minato is in sight. Li Yi looked at it carefully. Well, this man is really handsome. However, compared to myself, it is slightly worse. In fact, Li Yi is not bragging. Li Yi is indeed handsome too. However, this kind of handsomeness is completely different from Namikaze Minato's handsomeness. Namikaze Minato's handsome is a kind of sunny handsome. And Li Yi's handsomeness is a calm and sophisticated handsomeness. The two have their own merits. All in all, Namikaze Minato is a handsome man, and Li Yi is not bad either. Li Yi asked, "Where's Uchiha Fugaku? Why didn't I come with you?" Namikaze Minato basically believed Li Yi now, so he replied, "He is still staying near the rain country, I came here by myself." Hearing this, Li Yi raised his eyes slightly. In other words, until now, you don't know that the two of Uchiha have left the land of rain. That's right. Namikaze Minato nodded slightly. Did Akatsuki not inform you? Li Yi asked. No. Namikaze Minato shook his head slightly. We thought they missed the appointment. It's you who missed the appointment. Li Yi corrected. The two of you had a good agreement to meet in the castle of the Kingdom of Rain, but you didn't even enter the gate of the Kingdom of Rain. The inspection of the Rain country is too strict, and my Horaitian technique is useless at all. Namikaze Minato shook his head helplessly. As long as there is his kunai in the country of Rain, he can sneak into the country of Rain. However, the country of Rain is under martial law, not to mention people, not even flies. Therefore, the technique of Horaitian, which Namikaze Minato is best at, is not useful at all. Stop talking about that. Li Yi shook his head lightly and said, the two of Uchiha went back a day ago, you can go back and inform Uchiha Fugaku and them. Okay. Namikaze Minato nodded slightly, then asked again, are you going back? Huh. Li Yi narrowed his eyes. Namikaze Minato explained, I can take you back with me. His Horaitian technique can return to Uchiha Fugaku and others in an instant. You can also take Uchiha Fugaku and others back to Konoha village in an instant. No need, I'll just go back by myself. Li Yi shook his head slightly. That's good. Namikaze Minato nodded. Suddenly, he seemed to have remembered something, and said again, this time, saving the two of the Uchiha family is an A-level mission. After you go back, don't forget to report to Lord Hokage. Namikaze Minato is not a man of merit. This time, to save the two of Uchiha, he had almost no effort, so he would not be greedy for this gong. Li Yi nodded lightly, okay. In fact, even if Li Yi didn't say it, after Uchiha Makoto and Uchiha Yonchiang returned to Konoha village, they would tell Hokage the truth about what happened here. Including some details of Li Yi. Actually, Li Yi is a little unhappy with Akatsuki's 3 now. The three of you can just leave, why did you tell Uchiha Makoto the whole process of the matter before you left? Originally, the two of Uchiha were hidden by Uzumaki Nagato, so they didn't know how they escaped from the country of Rain. However, in the days when Li Yi was in a coma, they told everything. Because of this, the two of Uchiha knew the details of Li Yi. Li Yi now has 3 whole cards. 1. Dinghai Shenzhen, also known as the wishful golden hoop rod made by Sun Monkey. 2. Uzumaki 2 brothers and sisters. 3. Devil fruit. These 3 whole cards were obtained because of the system. If Uchiha Makoto's situation here is all told to the 3rd generation Hokage, then Li Yi's 3 whole cards will be exposed. After all, the 3rd generation Hokage knew about the existence of Dinghai Shenzhen before. Knowing oneself and knowing the enemy is the only way to be safe in 100 battles. Although I know their details, I can't let them know my details, because I can't tell when I will break up with Konoha village. Li Yi rubbed his brows and seemed a little worried. What do you think? Seeing that Li Yi's face changed slightly, Namikaze Minato asked with concern. Li Yi shook his head, it's just some trivial things in life. So it is. Namikaze Minato did not doubt, but turned to look at Violet. Be precise, he was looking at the long Yuhi-colored hair on Violet's end. Namikaze Minato's face. He said, she. Of course, before he finished speaking, Li Yi nodded, that's right, she goes to the descendants of the Uzumaki clan. No wonder. Namikaze Minato nodded. Then, Namikaze Minato asked again, she is from the land of rain. Regarding this question, Li Yi said with a smile, she will soon become a member of our country of fire. What do you mean? Namikaze Minato blinked. Even with his IQ, he was somewhat unable to react. Literally. Li Yi said with a smile, she wants to go back to Konoha village with me, and she is called a citizen of Konoha village. Master Sandaime is willing. Let the people of the enemy country become the subjects of your own country. Bullshit. If this person is a spy of the enemy country, wouldn't he lead the wolf into the house? Why? Namikaze Minato asks. I don't know. Li Yi shook his head. Uchiha Makoto said that she is capable of handling this matter. It turned out to be Makoto. Namikaze Minato nodded. With her family's power, this matter can indeed be handled well. Hearing this, Lee Yi was slightly taken aback. The power of her family. How? Uchiha Makoto's parents and relatives, are they very powerful? Looking at Lee Yi's stunned expression, Namikaze Minato asked, "You don't know." "What do I know?" Lee Yi blinked. He found that although Namikaze Minato's IQ is very high, he is often very cute, always saying these incomprehensible things. Uchiha Makoto's father is now the captain of the Konoha police force. Namikaze Minato said. Oh. Lee Yi's eyes twitched, and there was a hint of surprise on his face. He really didn't know about it. He knew was that Uchiha Fugaku would be the next captain of the Konoha police force. After all, in the original Hokage, there is no mention of Uchiha Fugaku's predecessor. Unexpectedly, Uchiha Makoto's father turned out to be the captain of the current Konoha police force. No wonder in the original Hokage, Uchiha Makoto ended up with Uchiha Fugaku. It is precisely because of father's death and son's succession, but the captain of this Konoha police force has only one daughter, Uchiha Makoto, so his position can only be inherited by his son-in-law. The first update. The next update is around 2030. The world is looking for silver tickets. Chapter 68 Uchiha Madara's Life Part 2. I really don't need me to take you back. Namikaze Minato asked again. From here, the trek back to Konoha village takes at least 8 hours. And if Namikaze Minato uses the Hiraishin technique, he can return to Konoha village in just 1 second. Lee Yi shook his head. Thank you for your kindness. Okay, then I'll go first, you pay attention to safety. Namikaze Minato nodded slightly. He took a deep breath. Then, his body shook. Swish. Disappeared out of thin air. Not even a breath was left. This is the art of Hiraishin. Flashed across Lee Yi's eyes. It only takes a moment of effort to teleport in space. And he can space transfer at least a minute. The two are very different. However, Lee Yi did not underestimate himself. Because he knew that Namikaze Minato's Hiraishin technique didn't have much room for improvement. And his devil fruit has great room for improvement. You know, the ability of the door fruit is comparable to that of Uchiha Obito's Kamui. It's a pity that you need a lot of physical strength to use devil fruits. Lee Yi is a weak chicken now, and doesn't have so much physical strength at all. It seems that I need to practice my physical strength. If not, this devil fruit will become a decoration for me. Lee resolutely said. Seeing Namikaze Minato's ability to teleport in space, Lee Yi strengthened his belief in improving physical strength. He believes that one day, he will be faster and stronger than Namikaze Minato. However, to get there, he had to pay a price. If you want to be famous in front of people, you must be involved in people behind. At this time, seeing Namikaze Minato leaving out of thin air, Violet asked, My lord, is this Namikaze Minato believable? Should be credible. Lee Yi nodded. In the original Hokage, Namikaze Minato not only has high IQ and strong fighting ability, but also has a great sense of justice. Because of this, he can become the 4th generation Hokage. If Namikaze Minato hasn't changed in this world, then he can be trusted. Looking at Violet's hesitant expression, Lee Yi asked, What's wrong? It's okay, I just think that person gives me a very dangerous feeling. Violet replied. Of course. Lee Yi smiled. In a few more years, the Third Ninja War will break out, and then Namikaze Minato will become famous. Namikaze Minato shines brightly in the Third Ninja War and is known as the Yellow Flash. It is precisely because of his outstanding achievements in the Third Ninja World War that he can become Hokage. All in all, the current Namikaze Minato has not fully revealed his abilities. Only when the Third Ninja War comes, the world will completely remember the 4 words, Yellow Flash. Of course, the Third Ninja World War does not necessarily happen yet. After all, Lee Yi came to this world. He knew that the main reason for the Third Ninja War was because Uchiha Madara was behind the scenes. As long as the scourge of Uchiha Madara is erased, then the Third Ninja World War is probably over. You know, it's Konoha 38, and Uchiha Madara isn't dead yet. He is now living on Gedo Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, waiting for a suitable opportunity. That is to say, the current Uchiha Madara is too old to be a problem. As long as his body and soul are destroyed, no matter how awesome Uchiha Madara is, he won't be able to make any waves. Lee Yi continued to think. He began to estimate the ages of Hitaki Kakashi and Uchiha Obito. In the original book of Hokage, both of them were born in Konoha 34 years. It is now Konoha 38 years. In other words, they are now 4 years old. In 3 or 4 years, they will enter the ninja school. In another 3 or 4 years, Uchiha Madara deliberately designed Kakashi to kill Rin with his own hands. Obito was blackened because of this, and Uchiha Madara died of old age. That is to say, it will take another 7 or 8 years before Uchiha Madara will die. Therefore, Lee Yi thought in his heart, both Senju brothers are dead, Uchiha Madara must be too old now, and he is not a problem when he is old, and he can be killed at this time. However, the skinny camel is bigger than a horse. Although Uchiha Madara is old and Rinnegan is gone, his ninjutsu and chakra are still there. Lee Yi touched his chin. Finally, he made 2 decisions. 1. Kill Uchiha Madara. But he will never interfere, nor reveal himself. 2. Do not kill Uchiha Madara. Keep him, maybe it will come in handy in the future. In fact, Lee Yi prefers the second decision. After all, he was well aware of Uchiha Madara's plans. Uchiha Madara spent his whole life trying to prove Senju Hashirama wrong. Senju Hashirama created such a ninja world, but Uchiha Madara disagreed. What he wanted to create was a world of absolute peace and everyone could realize their ideals, that is infinite Tsukuyomi. In order to achieve this goal, he will use any means and use countless people. However, it has to be said that Uchiha Madara's starting point is a good one. All in all, whether to kill Uchiha Madara or not depends on the specific situation. If this world develops according to the time flow of the original book, then Lee Yi will not betray Uchiha Madara and keep him temporarily. However, if this world has a butterfly effect due to the arrival of Lee Yi, causing the timeline to become disordered, then Lee Yi will not hesitate to tell all the information about Uchiha Madara to the land of fire and water, the land of thunder and the land of thunder. The land of the wind. No exaggeration to say that Uchiha Madara is the enemy of the whole world. If you let them know that Uchiha Madara is not dead, then the Third Ninja War will break out. It's just that in this ninja war, all countries join forces to encircle and suppress Uchiha Madara. He did it so that he didn't even have ashes left. So, now, Uchiha Madara is not dead, the master is in Lee Yi's hands. It's just that Uchiha Madara himself doesn't know about it. The world, very likely, will undergo some subtle changes because of my arrival. Lee Yi squinted his eyes and thought, in the original book, the Kingdom of Water did not frame the Kingdom of Thunder, and even if it was framed, it should be 3 or 4 years later, when the Third Ninja World War was about to break out. Uchiha Madara manipulate the country of water, add fuel to the flames, and promote the outbreak of the war, not now. Thought for a moment. Lee Yi is not sure whether this world timeline has changed. Tilde. At this time, a gust of cold wind blew. Lee Yi shivered. Come back to your senses. The moon and stars are sparse, and the night is dark. Violet stood quietly beside her. Before, Violet saw Lee Yi thinking, so she didn't bother him, but stood by his side all the time, guarding him silently. Second update. There is one more update. Before 2200 of the next update. Ask for silver tickets. Chapter 69 _ What happened last night. Third more. The night is deep. Lee Yi returned to the room. Violet wants to stay and vigil for Lee Yi, but was sent away by Li Yi. Li Yi knew that Violet had not slept well for several days. People are not made of iron, how can they not sleep? Li Yi lay on the bed, holding the back of his head with both hands, thinking a lot. He knows 99% of the intelligence of this world. However, it is basically impossible to change the world just by knowing the information. The foundation of everything is strength. Only with great strength can you be qualified to change the world. Li Yi can't change the world now. Only change yourself. Just make yourself stronger. Then you can change the world. In fact, Li Yi does not intend to change the world. However, if people do not offend me, I will not offend others, and if anyone offends me, I will repay them tenfold. Just like Uchiha Fugaku, Li Yi has no grievances with him, but he always comes to bully himself. How can Li Yi endure this? Therefore, no matter how the world develops, Li Yi must have a strong strength. Otherwise, he won't even have a chance to save his life, and can only become a bullied dog all his life. No, not even a dog. I still have to improve my strength. Li Yi thought so. Thinking about it, a wave of drowsiness swept over. He also exercised all day today, and now he drank a little wine, so he couldn't hold it any longer. Closing his eyes, he fell asleep. Time always goes by quickly. Peace of mind all night. Noon the next day. Li Yi woke up slowly. Stretching, Li Yi sat up from the bed and let out a comfortable moan. After 2 or 3 days of rest and conditioning, Li Yi can be considered recovered. Cool. He looked towards the bed. There was no trace of Violet's nearby. Li Yi suddenly felt a little empty in his heart. I'm used to it, does she exist? Li Yi laughed at himself. In the past, every time Li Yi woke up, the first thing he saw was Violet. And now, Violet is not around. But Li Yi didn't care. After all, Violet has a life of her own. Li Yi only needs Violet to work for herself at a critical time, and that's it. Stand up from the bed. Get dressed and take a shower. Li Yi walked out of the room. It was noon at this time, and the bright sun hung high in the middle of the sky. I slept for so long. Li Yi couldn't help but be a little surprised. Without thinking too much, Li Yi was going to look for Violet. Time to go. However, when it comes to Cao Cao, Cao Cao will arrive. A soft voice sounded not far from the left. Sir, are you awake? Li Yi turned his head to look. It was Violet who opened the mouth. However, Violet's body was carrying a small bag full of things. What are you wearing? Li Yi asked. Some household items. Violet replied. These things, go to the village of Konoha and buy them. Li Yi said, and I have it at home too, so don't have to be so troublesome. No trouble at all. Violet smiled and shook her head, her voice soft, and said, anyway, Tianbao will carry these things for me, and he will give them to me after he arrives in the village. That's it. Li Yi nodded and said no more. He could see that Li Yi was a good girl who was diligent and thrifty. Li Yi asked, where's Tianbao? As soon as these words came out, Violet's cheeks slightly swayed Yuhi, and said, Tianbao should still be at Sister Cow's house now. Oh. Hearing this, a curious look appeared on Li Yi's face. It's noon, Tianbao is still at home with the cows. It seems that some unknown secrets really happened between them. Li Yi teased a smile. But at this moment, Tianbao's weak voice suddenly sounded not far from the right. Sir, I'm sorry, I drank too much last night and delayed your trip. I am really sorry. Saying that, Tianbao ran over with an apologetic look on his face. No problem. Li Yi smiled and shook his head. I just woke up too. He stared at Tianbao. Tianbao was very uncomfortable being stared at by Li Yi's gaze. Li Yi wanted to see a clue from Tianbao's face or body. Everyone says that it only takes one night to grow from a boy to a man, but the temperament will undergo earth-shaking changes. Of course, the same goes for women. However, After Li Yi stared for a while, he didn't find a clue. Is this rumor false? Li Yi frowned slightly, thinking in his heart, or, this kid didn't drink and mess up at all last night. So, Li Yi turned pale and asked directly, Tianbao, did you do anything with Sister Cow last night? No. Tianbao shook his head. I was dizzy last night and slept until now. Although I live in the house of Sister Cow, nothing happened to us. When he said these words, Yu He's face was not even breathing, and it seemed that he had rehearsed many times. Oh. Li Yi frowned. Really? Tianbao nodded. Li Yi rested his right elbow on his left arm and his chin on his right hand, squinting and staring at Tianbao. It wasn't that he didn't believe Tianbao. He knew that men, once drunk, would lose those powers. Tianbao, he knows he can't drink, but he still drinks so much, isn't that stupid? Didn't he want something to happen with the cows? Although the appearance of the cow is slightly inferior to that of Violet, her figure is top-notch. If it were Li Yi, a master of flirting with girls, then he would definitely consider his alcohol intake, and then use his slightly drunkenness to have sex with the cows. It's a pity that Tianbao is a fool. However, Tianbao's answer now is a bit too fluent. This made Li Yi a little suspicious. He stared at Tianbao's eyes. Tianbao dodged a little, as if he didn't dare to look directly at Li Yi. Li Yi immediately understood when he saw Tianbao's appearance. This silly boy, although nothing happened with the cow, but after Li Yi left, there must have been a lot of embarrassing things between them. As for what was embarrassing, Li Yi didn't know. However, the embarrassing things that happened to the two drunk men and women were not those. All in all, after sobering up this morning, in order not to let outsiders know about those embarrassing things, the two talked to each other. Once someone asks, it is easy to answer. Li Yi patted Tianbao on the shoulder and said, young man, come on, work hard. Well, the word, dry, is very flavorful. On Tianbao's cheeks, a faint trace of Yuhi appeared. Afterwards, Li Yi didn't say more, and let Tianbao carry Violet's line on his back, and the three of them set off towards Konoha village together. Konoha village, Lao Su, Li Yi, are back. The third update. Today's update ends. Ask for silver tickets, ask for silver tickets, ask for silver tickets, and say important things 3 times. Chapter 70_waste. First more. 7 or 8 hours later. Li Yi finally came to the border of Konoha village. Li Yi stopped and said, we're here. Violet turned to look at Tianbao, her voice soft, and said, just send it here. Okay, sister. Nodded lightly and put the line on his back on the ground. You two brothers and sisters, talk a little bit, and I'll see if there is any danger around. After that, Li Yi left. He wants to give the two brothers and sisters some time to separate. Li Yi left. Tianbao said immediately, sister, you used to be from the Kingdom of Rain. After entering the Kingdom of Fire, you must conceal your identity. We hate the Kingdom of Fire so much, and the Kingdom of Fire hates the Kingdom of Rain. The same is true. Quote. Don't worry, I understand. Violet head lightly nodded. It's you are developing your own power outside, do what you can, and don't be stubborn in everything. Don't worry, sister, I understand. Tianbao patted his chest confidently. Also, in the future, be nice to Sister Cow. Violet reminded again. She felt that Tianbao must have had that kind of relationship with Sister Cow last night. Otherwise, why did Tianbao not wake up until noon? It must be false. Tianbao blinked. He said helplessly, sister, I'm innocent with Sister Cow, we really didn't do anything. No matter what you do or not, you have to be nice to her. If it weren't for her, then our siblings would have starved to death on the streets long ago. Violet said solemnly, Sister Cow is our savior, you won't lose if you marry her. Obviously, Violet has already decided that last night, there must have been a XX between these two people. Seeing that Violet's attitude was so hard, Tianbao knew that he couldn't refute it, so he nodded and said, "Sister, don't worry, I will definitely not treat Daisy Cow badly." "That's right." Violet's face turned from cloudy to sunny, and she said with a gentle smile, "You are too old, and I have nothing to remind you. I hope that when we meet next time, you can bring your sister-in-law to me." On Tianbao's forehead, 3 black lines appeared. Because her parents died early, her eldest sister was her mother, and Violet didn't want to see her generation break up. Seeing Tianbao's helpless expression, Violet frowned and asked angrily, "Did you hear that?" I heard my sister." Tianbao had to surrender. Although Violet has a gentle and considerate personality, her eldest sister is a mother, and she is always strict with her younger brother. "Sister, you must also pay attention to safety. Lord Li Yi is very strong, and various methods are emerging one after another. Once you encounter a danger that you can't handle, run behind him," Tianbao said. However, before Tianbao finished speaking, Violet glared at her beautiful eyes and said angrily, "What are you talking about? As servants of the adults, we must always be ready to die for the adults. How can there be any reason to hide behind the adults?" "But, sister, you are a woman after all. Whether I'm a man or a woman, I'm the servant of your lord. Come on, don't mention this kind of thing again." Violet waved her hand, her face pale. "Okay." Tianbao just nodded. He also didn't want to see an accident with Violet. And Violet didn't want to see anything happen to Tempo either. "I would rather have an accident on my own than an accident on the other side." It's understandable that the siblings are deeply in love. The two continued to talk. At the same time, Li Yi wandered around. "Konoha, there is a forest." It was now evening, and night fell. The forest was quiet and the breeze was blowing. Li Yi stretched his waist. "This is the boundary of Konoha village, and the perception of Konoha village will cover this area. Therefore, Li Yi is not worried at all, there will be danger here. No exaggeration to say that Konoha village is the most powerful country in the world. Because of this, the law and order is quite good both inside and outside of Konoha village. Moreover, after the last disturbance in the land of water, Konoha village learned a lesson, and the security intensity must have increased a lot." So, Li Yi leaned on the trunk of a big tree, closed his eyes and rested. He left the Violet siblings 20 or 30 minutes to say goodbye. That is to say, after 20 or 30 minutes, he will go back. "Now, just rest here for a while." However, when Li Yi relaxed his vigilance, a rustling sound suddenly sounded from the grass not far away. Li Yi frowned, opened his eyes immediately, and turned his head to look. I saw a man emerge from the grass. On his forehead, he wears the forehead guard of Konoha village. Obviously, this is the ninja of Konoha village. Li Yi breathed a sigh of relief. I thought it was the enemy. However, this man looks familiar. Must have seen it before. Li Yi narrowed his eyes slightly and stared at the visitor. However, Li Yi did not know the other party, but the other party knew Li Yi. He looked at Li Yi, he smiled, and said, "He, I thought who entered the realm of our country of fire, but it turned out to be you, Li Yi, you are not dead yet." His attitude was very disdainful. Li Yi tilted his head and asked, "I know you." "Yes, you don't know me." The ninja nodded and said with a disdainful smile, "A trash like you, only remembers Brother Fugaku, not me, and it makes sense. After all, it's not me who beat you the hardest." As soon as these words came out, a cold light flashed across Li Yi's eyes. He remembered. The man in front of him, like Uchiha Fugaku, has been bullying him for years. This man is not from the Uchiha family, but he is a dog-legged son of Uchiha Fugaku. He used to follow a large group of people and bully Li Yi together. Were too many people who bullied Li Yi. Li Yi only remembered a few representatives, so for a while, he didn't remember the man in front of him. Li Yi's face was slightly gloomy, and he said, "Is there something wrong?" If it's okay, don't talk to me. Hee, Li Yi, you've been out for a while, right? Man laughed and said, the Kingdom of Thunder has captured 18 people from our Konoha village, but only threw back 17 heads. You are the only one without you. Do you think this is suspicious? Suspicious ass. Li Yi scolded angrily. I survived and escaped, can't I? The current Li Yi will naturally not bear the burden of humiliation like before. Hee, it's really interesting. A Chunin didn't escape from the hands of the Kingdom of Thunder. You are a waste, but you can escape from death. If you say it, who will believe it? Said the man. Smart people will believe it, but stupid people won't. Li Yi leaned against the tree with his arms crossed, and cursed angrily. Okay, don't fuck with me here. What do you want to do? Tell me, I don't have time to waste my time with you. Before 21:30 of the next update. Ask for a silver ticket plus a reward. Chapter 71-1 hit kill. Second more. As the so-called Comer is not good. Li Yi knew that the other party must be looking for trouble. Therefore, Li Yi was not polite to him. Look for a job. Look for your mother, no, look for your father. It just so happened that my heart was full of fire. Therefore, Li Yi scolded directly, angrily, don't fuck around with me, just tell me what you want to do. I don't have time to waste your saliva like a waste like you. As soon as these words came out, the face of the man opposite was like a dark cloud, suddenly gloomy. Okay, Li Yi, I've been out for a while, I've been able to endure it, right? He directly took out a handful of kunai, held it in the palm of his hand, and said with a sneer, it seems that, as I expected, you must have been in the land of thunder, that's why you became so arrogant, you spy. Dare to go back to Konoha village. Quote. Hearing this, Li Yi understood. Turns out he was being treated as a spy. Think about it, in the eyes of the other party, you are just a waste, and you can't escape at all. You know, among the 17 people who died, there was a Chunin. But now, he came back safe and sound. If you don't know it, you will definitely feel suspicious. So it is. Li Yi nodded. Spy, how dare you go back to Konoha village? Today, if I let you into the village, I know that Izumi is not a human being. After finishing speaking, the man took the kunai and walked towards Li Yi step by step. Fuck you on the spot, honestly, I can make you suffer less, if not, he. Having said this, the man smiled wryly, licking his sharp kunai with a hideous look. If I'm not a spy and you want to arrest me, then I can resist, right? Li Yi asked. Of course. Ching Izumi nodded, but then sneered, however, you spy of the Kingdom of Thunder, even if I kill you here, Lord Sandemu won't blame me. Looks like we're running out of words. Li Yi shrugged. Hee, I have never spoken to a waste like you. Kyo Izumi's smile was extremely disdainful. This sentence, I also send it to you. Li Yi grinned at Ching Izumi. In fact, Ching Izumi is also a waste. Almost 20 years old and still a genin. You know, Namikaze Minato became a jonin when he was 14 or 15 years old. Of course, although Ching Izumi is also a waste, he is not as wasteful as Li Yi. When others look down on him, he looks down on Li Yi. Now, seeing Li Yi's harmless smile, Ching Izumi's heart, for some reason, was a little terrified. His instinct told him not to provoke this man in front of him. But then, he told himself in his heart, what kind of ability can such a waste have? Today, I must catch this spy, make a contribution, and be promoted to Chunin. Kyo Izumi got more excited the more he thought about it, and in the end, he ran straight up and rushed towards Li Yi. The sharp kunai in his hand can break gold and crack stones. However, Li Yi smiled, then suddenly raised his right hand and flicked his finger at Ching Izumi. Boom! Glittering gold. Because the golden light was too bright, Ching Izumi couldn't help but close her eyes. But, just after he closed his eyes. Boom! A huge force slammed into his chest. He only felt that he was hit by a crazy bull. No, not 1, but 10. PFF'd. Immediately, Ching Izumi spat out a mouthful of blood, and the whole person flew away like a kite with a broken string. In flight, he opened his eyes. However, he saw that Li Yi stood motionless on the ground, as if he had never shot. Moreover, there is a golden light in Li Yi's hand. But the next moment, the golden light disappeared. And when the golden light disappeared, Li Yi also disappeared from Clear Izumi's eyes. After all, Ching Izumi has already flown far away, and I can't see Li Yi anymore. Watching Izumi leave, Li Yi shook his head with a wry smile. I'm still a little unsteady in control, the strength of the wishful golden hoop. He just wanted to beat Kyo Izumi seriously, he didn't want him to be killed. There is only one reason, that is, deterrence. Returning to Konoha village, there must be many people looking for trouble with Li Yi. Especially those angry youths. Li Yi didn't want to be bothered by these unwarranted troubles. So, he just wanted to deter him. Ching Izumi seriously, and if he was afraid of him, he would tell the story, and then pass it on from 10 to 10. At that time, those angry youths will know that Li Yi is not easy to mess with, so naturally they will provoke Li Yi again. Li Yi is not a person who likes to pretend to slap his face, nor is he interested in pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. But now, Kyo Izumi is probably dead. This is also the result of Li Yi's efforts to suppress the Rui Golden Hoop. If Li Yi hadn't suppressed the Sea God Needle, then the name Genin, Ching Izumi, is estimated to have become a meat-chan. You must know that the Dinghaishan Needle, which is the Rui Golden Hoop rod, weighs 13,500 jins. It seems that even if it's Dinghaishan Gen, there is still room for improvement. Li resolutely said. When can I control the power of the Sea Ding God Needle at will? This is a great achievement. Shaking his head, Li Yi no longer thought about it. Forget it, let's go have a look. Li Yi walked forward. However, Li Yi hasn't taken a step yet. Call out, call out. A cracking sound rang out. Several figures jumped over the branches, and finally all landed on Li Yi's side, surrounding Li Yi in a waterway. And in their hands, they are holding a kunai, full of hostility. Li Yi blinked. What's the situation? Bold madman, dare to come to the country of fire to make trouble, don't want to live anymore, right? The speaker was a female ninja, about 25 or 6 years old, with average appearance and average stature, and shouted at Li Yi at this time. Where did I make trouble? Li Yi blinked and asked. How dare you make excuses? Bring Kyo Izumi over here. The female ninja snorted coldly and said. She had just finished speaking, and behind her, 2 medical ninjas carried Kyo Izumi and came over. Li Yi looked intently. Ching Izumi's chest was extremely sunken and looked very penetrating. But, even so, his chest was still crouching, and he was clearly breathing. Oh, not dead yet. Li Yi was surprised for a moment, and smiled with satisfaction. It seems that his efforts are still very effective. Who the hell are you, and why did you hurt my ninja in the land of fire? The female ninja stared at Li Yi and asked with a sullen face. I am also from the land of fire. Li Yi said. Fart, how can the people of the country of fire hurt their compatriots? Female ninja roared loudly. Hurry up and call for it, or it will make you look good. The ninjas surrounding Li Yi took a step towards Li Yi, and the sharp kunai in their hands was also closer to Li Yi's neck. Li Yi patted his forehead helplessly. Should have asked Uchiha Makoto for a token to prove my identity. Before it was Namikaze Minato who didn't believe in themselves, now it's these ninjas who don't believe in themselves. And they want to kill themselves. Speechless. 2200 in the evening. Ask for a silver ticket plus ask for a reward. Chapter 72 might die. Third more. At this point, Li Yi naturally wouldn't say nonsense like, I'm really from Konoha village. Because it's useless. Therefore, Li Yi had to look around to see if there was a breakthrough point. If it's a big deal, used Ding Haishenzhen to forcibly leave. Suddenly, Li Yi's eyes lit up, as if he saw something. Immediately, he put his eyes on the man behind him. The other party was wearing green sportswear, tied with a yellow scarf, and had black hair that looked like it was oiled, shiny, thick eyebrows and a thick beard. This outfit was very funny. Without the slightest hesitation, Li Yi asked directly, "Are you Might Dai?" Hearing this, the man was slightly taken aback. "You know me." "Why don't I know you?" Li Yi burst into a smile. Might Dai's father, the big man who created the 8 inner gates. In fact, in the original, Hokage, it is not said who created the 8 inner gates. However, Might Dai was the first to use the formation of the 8 inner gates. So, Li Yi tacitly agrees that Might Dai is the creator of the 8 inner gates. "I'm Li Yi, don't you remember me?" Li Yi pointed to himself and asked. "Li Yi." Might Dai blinked, scratched his head and said, "So familiar name." "Dai, do you know him?" The female ninja frowned and asked. Might Dai shook his head. "I haven't remembered." However, before he could finish speaking, his eyes suddenly lit up, his left hand clenched his fist and slammed it on the palm of his right hand, and said, "I remember, you are Li Yi, we used to drink ramen together." Yes. Li Yi smiled slightly. This guy can remember. Li Yi's daily staple is ramen. Might Dai also often drinks ramen. So, 2 years ago, they met, and they said a few words and introduced each other. Might Dai turned to look at the female ninja and said, "Sister Mailing, he is indeed from our Konoha village, I can guarantee that." The female ninja nodded. She knew that although Might Dai was a waste, he was a very real person. He doesn't lie. Then, the female ninja frowned again, stared at Li Yi and asked, "Why did you hurt your compatriots?" "I'm just in self-defense." Li Yi said, "If you don't believe me, you can search his memory to see if I'm upright in defense." "I don't know that evil ninjutsu." The female ninja shook her head, with a hint of contempt in her words. "It's not ninjutsu that is evil, it's people." Li Yi said lightly. As soon as these words came out, the female ninja's eyes lit up slightly. There is something in this sentence. Li Yi's identity has been confirmed. Several ninjas around him are not as cautious about Li Yi as before. "Li Yi, why are you here?" Might Dai patted Li Yi's shoulder and asked. "I was taken away by the land of water. I finally escaped, and I hid outside for a few days." Li Yi said, "It's you, haven't you been back to the village these days?" Might Dai nodded. "Well, I've been out on a mission, and I just came back today." "No wonder." Li Yi touched his chin. Might Dai was present when the 7 ninja swordsmen attacked Konoha village, then the 7 ninja swordsmen would have lost at least 4. You know, Might Dai has a great sense of justice. Even if he sacrifices himself, he doesn't want to see others die. When the 7 ninja swordsmen came to sneak attack, he would definitely open 8 doors to protect the village, and instantly gain more than 10 times the power above the 5 shadows. At this time, the female ninja said, "No matter what, you hurt our compatriots, it's your fault, go back with me, and meet Lord Sandemu together, and ask him to decide this matter." Good. Li Yi agreed without hesitation. Anyway, the first thing he did when he returned to Konoha village was to meet Sarutobi Hiruzen. "Is he still alive?" Li Yi pointed at Ching Izumi on the stretcher and asked. "You made your own hands. You have no sense in your heart." The female ninja stared slightly and asked. "Yes." Li Yi, shameless, nodded. 3 black lines appeared on the female ninja's forehead. "He's hurt too badly." Female ninja said helplessly. "Even if she can live, she probably won't be able to wake up." "It's so serious." Li Yi blinked. "It seems that you really have no sense at all." Female ninja said coldly. "But then again, since you have such a powerful strength, then you are at least a chunin, but why haven't I seen you before? There are a lot of institutions in Konoha village and a lot of people you haven't met." Li Yi said lightly, even if you are someone who stays by your side all day, you may not really understand. While speaking, Li Yi also gave Might Dai a deep look. However, the female ninja did not hear the implication of Li Yi's words. She only felt that Li Yi was looking down on her, so she smiled coldly. Hee, isn't it? You are really an arrogant man. Thanks for the compliment. Li Yi smiled. Okay, I won't talk nonsense with you anymore. Let's go, the village is right in front of you. The female ninja stretched. Wait for me, I'll call someone. Li Yi turned around and left. The female ninja frowned. She was worried that Li would escape from the crime, so she said to Might Dai, Dai, you follow him. Might Dai scratched his head and smiled. Don't worry, mailing sister, Li Yi is very real and won't run away. However, before Might Dai finished speaking, the female ninja coldly shouted, follow him. The tone is irrefutable. Might Dai had to keep up with Li Yi. Li Yi naturally went to call Violet. At this point, Violet and Tianbao had already said their goodbyes. The two siblings are waiting for Li Yi. Seeing Li Yi come back, Violet immediately asked, Sir, are you all right? I heard the battle just now and thought it was you. It's me. Li Yi smiled and nodded. Huh. Violet opened her small mouth and asked in astonishment, My lord, who did you fight? Are you not injured? It's all right. Li Yi shook his head, then said, we should go. Good lord. Violet head tapped, wanting to pick up the row of Li bags on the ground. However, before she could reach out, Li Yi turned around, looked at Might Dai behind him, and asked, Brother Dai, do me a favor and hold Li. No problem, happy to help. Might Dai gave Li Yi a thumbs up and grinned. The white and neat Kiba teeth reflected a bright light, full of fighting spirit. So, Li Yi and Violet walked in the front, Might Dai walked in the back with Li on his back, and went back to Konoha village with the female ninja and others. This is the third update. Today's update is over. The world is looking for silver tickets plus rewards. Chapter 73_straightforward, Part 1. Night falls. Konoha is brightly lit. After all, it is the most powerful country in the world, and Konoha village is not comparable to other countries in terms of humanistic cultivation and technological level. Konoha village is guarded by ninjas all year round. To enter Konoha village, you must pass the certification of these ninjas. Li Yi was still worried before, how can he pass? Are you going to call Uchiha Makoto over? That would be too much trouble, right? And now, Li Yi followed Might Dai and others into the village without the slightest hindrance. This is the acquaintance effect. Li Yi smiled with satisfaction. Walked the streets of Konoha village. Looking at the surrounding environment, there was a hint of nostalgia in Li Yi's eyes. Although he has only been out for 5 or 6 days, in these 5 or 6 days, Li Yi has experienced countless lives and deaths. Going back to this place now, he couldn't help feeling a little emotional in his heart. However, Li Yi's mentality has also changed. Before leaving the village, Li Yi had no strength and was always bullied, but he could only endure the humiliation and bear the burden and did not dare to say a word. And now back in the village, Li Yi will not be like before. Bull me, humiliate me, slander me, laugh at me, despise me, belittle my generation. Now, I will not forgive me lightly. Li Yi's hands clenched slightly. At this moment, Might Dai put his arms around Li Yi's shoulder and said with a smile, Li Yi, you have very little chakra, right? Li Yi nodded. Then are you interested in learning physique with me? Might Dai asked with a smile. As soon as these words came out, Li Yi's eyes lit up. Learning gymnastics. Is this guy trying to teach me the formation of the 8 inner gates? You want to teach me before I even speak to you? Li Yi gave Might Dai a deep look. What, are you interested? Might Dai grinned, the 2 rows of neat white Kiba teeth flashed a touch of light. Li Yi nodded. I am interested. Well, starting today, let's practice together. Might Dai gave Li Yi a thumbs up. Because you just started exercising, so take it easy. Do 100 push-ups, 10,000 meter long distance running, 200 sit-ups, and 50 pull-ups every day. Up, so little is enough. Quote. Hearing this, Li Yi was stunned. This kind of training intensity, damn it, I'm afraid it will kill me. Might Dai patted Li Yi's shoulder, smiled brightly, and said, Li Yi, how can you see a rainbow without experiencing wind and rain? You are like me, now you do 500 push-ups, 50,000 meter long distance running, and 1,000 sit-ups every day. 850 pull-ups, every day. Quote. Li resolutely said, your formation of the 8 inner gates is very harmful to the human body, of course it requires a strong physique. But I only need to evolve the 8 inner gates formation, then, its requirements on the human body may not be so high, and I don't need to exercise like this. Li Yi thought about it, and finally decided, forget it, stop talking nonsense with him, and get straight to the point. So, Li Yi put his arms around Might Dai's shoulders and whispered, Brother Dai, do you have a Nirvana move? As soon as these words came out, Might Dai's face changed slightly. Li Yi continued, I also know that if you want to use this Nirvana, you must have strong physical fitness. Am I right? Might Dai didn't answer, but his face sank involuntarily. The two men were hugging each other, speaking in a low voice that no one else could hear. The female ninja walking at the forefront saw this scene and frowned slightly. What are these two big men doing? So mysterious. But she didn't care. Women have whispers between women, don't men have whispers between men? She thought so. At the same time, Li Yi continued to ask, Brother Dai, you don't have to hide it from me. Is your Nirvana called the 8 inner gates? Li Yi knew that Might Dai was an honest man. To deal with honest people, you have to use this kind of straightforward means. Sure enough, in the face of Li Yi's shameless attitude, Might Dai nodded his head, with kindness, that's right. But, Li Yi, how did you know? We have such a good relationship, can I not know? Li Yi laughed. Might Dai was a little stunned. And Li Yi have only had a one-sided relationship, so the relationship is not good enough. Li Yi continued, Brother Dai, can you teach me the formation of the 8 inner gates? However, to Li Yi's surprise, Might Dai shook his head directly after hearing the words, no. Why? Li Yi was startled. Because you are not suitable to study the 8 inner gates. Might Dai said, to use the 8 inner gates, you have to have a strong physique, but you don't. I don't have it now, but in the future, maybe it will be. You teach me the 8 inner gates now. After I have a strong physique in the future, won't you just practice it? Li Yi said with a smile. However, Might Dai still shook his head. No, the formation of the 8 inner gates is too dangerous for me to teach you easily. Li Yi frowned slightly. Feeling this guy, just don't want to teach me how to practice the 8 inner gates. Think about it too, this unique secret skill can only be passed on to one's own descendants, not others. He has no relationship with him and he has no reason to pass it on to himself. Do you want to use hard tactics? Li Yi narrowed his eyes slightly. Since soft is not enough, then hard. It's okay to say no, then I'll grab it. However, Might Dai said, you are just like me. You have very little chakra in your body, so you are only suitable for cultivating body arts. You are also a fallen person from the end of the world. I will teach you the 8 inner gates. Hearing this, Li Yi blinked. Might Dai continued, but as I said before, to learn the formation of the 8 inner gates, you must first have a strong physique, and when you have a strong physique, I will teach you this physique. Is that so? Li Yi nodded. I thought that Might Dai was selfish, so he wouldn't teach himself the formation of the 8 inner gates. Now it seems that Might Dai is indeed a good person, a big good person. You know, even if Might Dai doesn't teach himself the formation of the 8 inner gates, it's a matter of course. However, the problem came again. If you want to learn the 8 inner gates, you must have a strong physique. And a strong physique cannot be obtained in a short time. Might Dai has been exercising since he was a child, and he has exercised for so many years before he has this physique. Can't you practice for 5 or 6 years and then learn the 8 inner gates? This time is too long. The first update. The next update is around 21:30. Ask for a silver ticket plus ask for a reward. Chapter 74_compromise. Second more. The two big men were talking to each other, and before they knew it, they came to Hokage's office. Standing in front of the office door, the female ninja said, "Please pay attention to me later, don't say anything that shouldn't be said, understand?" Understood. Several ninjas under the female ninja all nodded. Female ninja looked at Lee and Violet again and said, "And you too, don't make any small moves, or I won't spare you." Lee had a speechless expression on his face. What little moves can we do? We are great people. Besides, the strength of the 3 generations of Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, in the entire world, is the existence of 3 competing for 1. Even if we want to do small things, we can't do it under his nose. Do you think we are stupid? Seeing that Lee and Violet acquiesced, the ninja raised her right hand and knocked on the office door. Boom, boom. Immediately afterwards, in the office, a vigorous male voice came out, "Come in." The ninja pushed the door and entered. Lee, Might Dai and others followed. The office is brightly lit. 3rd generation of Hokage was leaning on the chair, smoking a pipe, surrounded by clouds and mist. Nara Shikaku was on the side, packing up the documents. Seeing everyone coming in, he just glanced at it lightly, and then withdrew his gaze, indifferent. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a hard puff on his pipe and asked, "Back?" Reporting to the 3rd generation, "No one was injured in our squad." The female ninja nodded lightly and said, "Well done." Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded. Then, the female ninja began to report this action carefully. "I do not know how long it has been." The female ninja report is finished. Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded. "Well, you guys have done an excellent job this time. Thank you for your compliment, Sandaime-sama." The female ninja was delighted. "It's getting late today, go back first, and come back tomorrow morning, and I'll give you a reward." Sarutobi Hiruzen said in a calm and powerful voice. "Thank you, Mitsuyomi-sama." The female ninja nodded, greeted everyone, and turned to leave. But at this moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly said again, "Lee and that little girl from the Uzumaki clan, you two stay here." So, Lee and Violet stayed. And the female ninja seemed to remember something, and immediately stopped, and wanted to speak. However, before she could speak, Lee said, "Master Sandaime, I accidentally beat a ninja and seriously injured me outside the village. Please punish me." After speaking, Lee bowed deeply towards Sarutobi Hiruzen with a sincere attitude. Hearing this, the female ninja was taken aback. She just wanted to say this. Unexpectedly, Lee took the initiative to take the blame. At this moment, the way the female ninja looked at Lee changed. This guy is a man. So, the female ninja stopped writing ink, pushed the door and left the room. There were only 4 people left in the room. 3 generations of Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, Hokage Military Division Nara Shikaku, Lee, Violet. Hearing Lee's words, Sarutobi Hiruzen took a hard puff on his pipe and said, "I already know about this. Your actions, although they are self-defense, are a bit too self-defense." "Yes." Lee nodded. "Before, you killed that Uchiha Dashang, and it was too defensive. I wanted you to take the blame and make merit, but I didn't expect you to save Uchiha Makoto and Uchiha Yonchiang, so the merit and the crime are worth it." Sarutobi Hiruzen said, "Now, you accidentally beat Kiyoshi Izumi and seriously injured it, and it was too defensive. So, you have to continue to take the blame and make merit." "Yes." Lee nodded. "Suddenly I remembered that in my hand, there seemed to be a piece of information in the master's hands. So, Lee Yi said, Lord Sandemu, the one who attacked Konoha village before was not the land of thunder. Oh. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes, and the smoking movement also stopped slightly. Looking at Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression, Lee resolutely said, it seems that Namikaze Minato didn't tell him about it. Before, Lee Yi told Namikaze Minato about this. I thought Namikaze Minato would take the lead and tell Sarutobi Hiruzen about this. It seems that Namikaze Minato is indeed not greedy for merit. Lee Yi continued, the one who attacked our Konoha village before was actually the land of water. Oh, how can you see that? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked. Everything requires a piece of evidence. No evidence, just nonsense. Lee Yi said, there are 7 ninja swordsmen in the land of water, and a total of 18 people from our Konoha village were arrested. I was among them, but I was lucky and I narrowly escaped. That's why I know. Tell me about the situation that day in detail. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a hard puff on his cigarette and said. Lee Yi nodded, first sorted out his thoughts, and then told the situation of the day. After listening to Lee Yi's words, Sarutobi Hiruzen stopped smoking and narrowed his eyes slightly. And Nara Shikaku on the side also stopped the movement in his hand, the pair of dead fish eyes, staring at Lee Yi. Because they all know that if it is true as Lee Yi said, then the whole ninja world is about to change. Why does the country of water frame the country of thunder and blame the country of thunder, and why do they want to attack our country of fire? Are they trying to provoke war like this? Are they trying to cause war again? Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression turned gloomy. Everyone yearns for peace. Everyone hates war. Peace and development, isn't it fragrant? Why are there always some people who do not hesitate to destroy a beautiful and peaceful life, but also start a war? Have a brain bubble. Sarutobi Hiruzen and Nara Shikaku were lost in thought. Seeing that both of them were thinking, Lee Yi just stood aside quietly and did not disturb them. Suddenly, Nara Shikaku looked up at Lee Yi and asked, among the other 17 people who were taken away, there was a Chunin who was stronger than you, but he couldn't escape, but you were able to escape. A little, I'm afraid it's not just luck, is it? Nara Shikaku's eyes. Apparently, like Kyo Izumi, Nara Shikaku doesn't trust Lee Yi either. Lee Yi smiled, it's really not just luck, but also my strength. Nara Shikaku stared at Lee Yi and asked, but, as far as I know, you don't seem to have much strength, do you? What you know is the truth. There are so many people in Konoha village, can you guarantee that you can understand everyone? Lee Yi asked with a smile. Nara Shikaku frowned. Lee Yi's words made him very unhappy. Nara Shikaku likes the feeling of developing and winning thousands of miles away, and dislikes the feeling of out of control. And now, the existence of Lee Yi makes him feel out of control. There is one more update. Around 2300, the world seeks silver tickets plus rewards. Chapter 75_observation period, first update. Nara Shikaku always thought that Lee Yi was just the tail of a crane and had no strength. However, the truth is that Lee Yi almost killed a genin. This made Nara Shikaku have to reacquaint Lee Yi. This guy is not as simple as he imagined, it seems that we need to investigate again. Nara Shikaku stared at Lee Yi, thinking. Lee Yi did not talk nonsense with Nara Shikaku. He looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen and said, Lord Hokage, does this information count as credit? Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded. Forget it. Then can I make up for it? Lee Yi asked. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a deep breath of his cigarette, thought for a moment, and finally nodded, yes. Thank you Lord Hokage. Lee Yi smiled with satisfaction. He didn't want to wear a sinner's yoke all day. Sarutobi Hiruzen doesn't seem to want to worry about whether Lee Yi is a spy or not. He turned to look at Violet Lan and said, the little girl of the Uzumaki clan, what's your name? Lord Hokage, my name is Uzumaki Violet. Violet replied softly. Violet, that's a nice name, it sounds nice. Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled slightly. In our village, there is also a little girl from the Uzumaki family. Maybe you two know each other. But she is a little older than you. In Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes, Violet is a little girl of 15 or 16 years old. However, Violet's real age is already 19 years old. After all, she died for 3 years. And Uzumaki Kushina's age is about 20 years old, so Sarutobi Hiruzen will say, Uzumaki Kushina is older than Violet. In fact, the two women are almost the same age. The Violet stinger nodded lightly, but didn't say much. Violet, I heard Makoto say, you want to enter our country of fire. Sarutobi Hiruzen asked again. Yes, Lord Hokage. The Violet head tapped. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a light puff on his pipe, thought for a while, and finally turned to look at Li Yi and said, Li Yi, you go out first. Li Yi was startled. Why should I go out first? Could it be that the 3 generations of Hokage are going to personally question Violet? Without any hesitation, Li Yi nodded lightly. Okay, Lord Hokage. After speaking, Li Yi pushed open the door and walked out. On the way to Konoha village, Li Yi had already told Violet what he should and should not say. Violet is smart and can't go wrong. Therefore, even if Sarutobi Hiruzen, the old fritters, personally questioned, Li Yi was not worried. Li Yi stood in the corridor of Hokage's office, leaning against the wall, waiting patiently. About 20 minutes passed. Crunch. Hokage's office was pushed open. Nara Shikaku's faint voice came. Li Yi, come in. Okay. Li Yi nodded and walked into the Hokage office. Soon as he entered the office, Sarutobi Hiruzen said, Li Yi, Violet is your friend and should live with you. Hearing this, Li Yi blinked. Because, according to the inherent routine, Sarutobi Hiruzen will say, but, next. Sure enough, Sarutobi Hiruzen said, however, Violet is an outsider after all, and there is a 2-week observation period, so you cannot meet during these 2 weeks. Li Yi frowned. Can't meet. Is it such a dog? However, Li Yi didn't complain, but thought for a while, and finally nodded. Okay, Lord Hokage, I have no objection. People are under the eaves and have to bow their heads. Li Yi lives in Konoha village now, he has to obey the rules of Konoha village, and more importantly, listen to the words of Hokage-sama. Li Yi, you have completed the A-level task. Tomorrow morning, go to the financial side and collect the task reward. Sarutobi Hiruzen said again. The so-called task reward is actually money. Over the years, Li Yi has been receiving pensions for the death of both parents, so he can drink ramen occasionally and make ends meet. Now, Li Yi has completed an A-level mission, so there must be a lot of money. Thinking of this, Li Yi couldn't help but look forward to it. You know, there are many delicious and fun places in Konoha village. At this time, Sarutobi Hiruzen said again, Li Yi, it's getting late for 10:10 today, Violet will stay at your house first, and I'll send someone over to settle her tomorrow morning. Okay, Lord Hokage. Li Yi nodded lightly and agreed without hesitation. Just to take advantage of this evening, to explain some important things. Okay, I'm fine. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a puff of his pipe, leaned back on his chair, and asked, how about you? Do you have anything to do? I'm all right. Li Yi shook his head slightly. How about you, Violet? Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Violet. I'm fine too. Violet also shook her head slightly. So, the two left the Hokage office. Crunch. The door is closed. Office, only Sarutobi Hiruzen and Nara Shikaku were left. Sarutobi Hiruzen squinted and smoked a cigarette, cloudy. Nara Shikaku stood there in a daze, motionless. Both were silent. I do not know how long it has been. Sarutobi Hiruzen spoke suddenly and asked, Shikaku, what do you think? It's too suspicious. Nara Shikaku didn't hide his thoughts, and said, If it is true as he said, it was the 7 ninja swordsmen from the land of water who captured them, then even a Jonin would not be able to escape the claws. Sarutobi Hiruzen corrected, the elite Jonin can't escape either. Glanced at Sarutobi Hiruzen and asked, could it be that that guy has the strength of an elite Jonin? I don't know, but he has a weapon. It's very strange. It's very similar to my ape demon, but it doesn't have the spirituality of an ape demon. Sarutobi Hiruzen said. I heard about that weapon too. Nara Shikaku nodded and said, it can be long or short, thick or thin, and can be changed in size at will. This kind of weapon is indeed rare, but can you escape with just one weapon? Didn't Makoto say that little guy has the bloodline boundary of space transfer? Sarutobi Hiruzen said. But Sister Makoto also said that Lee only used the space transfer ability twice. The first time was when he was very young, and the second time was to save Sister Makoto. In other words, from the 7 ninja swordsmen. He didn't use the ability to teleport when he was on the run. Nara Shikaku retorted. How do you know he's not lying? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked with a smile. As soon as these words came out, Nara Shikaku choked. This question stopped him. Sarutobi Hiruzen continued. Shikaku, many times, seeing is not necessarily believing, let alone hearing. Here, you must make your own judgment. And, Sarutobi Hiruzen pointed to his head. And he seemed to be inspired by something. In the end, he saluted Sarutobi Hiruzen and said, Shikaku has been taught. This is the first update. The next update is around 2100. Chapter 76 Uncle Ichiraku, Part 2. Lord Hokage, what are you going to do? Nara Shikaku asked. My thoughts are the same as yours. Sarutobi Hiruzen said. Then who are you going to send him to investigate? Nara Shikaku asked. Danzo-sama. Sarutobi Hiruzen shook his head. Lee is not suspicious. There is no need to use Anbu's power. From tomorrow, I will let Uchiha Makoto live with him and investigate everything about him. You want Sister Makoto to live with him? Nara Shikaku was taken aback. That's right. Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled and nodded. In fact, he still has a sentence that he didn't say, and this is what your Sister Makoto asked for. Sarutobi Hiruzen knew that Nara Shikaku had a good impression of Uchiha Makoto. What man doesn't like a beautiful, intellectual woman? In order not to hurt Nara Shikaku's heart, Sarutobi Hiruzen did not tell the truth. Lord Hokage, is it appropriate for you to do this? Nara Shikaku asked. Public is public, private is private, Lee is Uchiha Makoto's savior, and it is a wise choice for her to investigate Lee. Sarutobi Hiruzen said. Okay. Nara Shikaku had no choice but to nod. After all, it was Lord Hokage's choice, and he couldn't object. Sarutobi Hiruzen said again. Right now, both Lee and the little girl from the Uzumaki clan are a little suspicious. I will separate the two of them and investigate each for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, I will be sure that I know everything about these two people. That's very good. Nara Shikaku nodded. Suddenly, Nara Shikaku looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen and asked, Lord Hokage, to be honest, do you think that guy is a spy? No. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't think about it, and shook his head. I don't think Lee is a spy. However, everything is about a piece of evidence. Without evidence, it's impossible to convince the public. Lord Hokage, you've always been very accurate. Nara Shikaku said deeply. Hee, Shikaku, are you flattering me? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked with a smile. No, I'm just telling the truth. Nara Shikaku shook his head slightly. Okay, it's getting late, you can go back and rest. Sarutobi Hiruzen waved his hand. Okay. Nara Shikaku nodded lightly, got up, and was about to leave. But at this moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen said again, oh, by the way, tomorrow morning, someone will be sent to pick up that little girl from the Uzumaki clan. You should inform a few ninjas now, don't wait until tomorrow morning. Nara Shikaku shook his head and refused. Lord Hokage, I'm off work. I'm going back to rest, goodbye. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes widened. Nara Shikaku ignored it, pushed the door and left. Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed softly. Oh, this little guy is still so troublesome. Sarutobi Hiruzen shook his head with a wry smile. Nara Shikaku leaves the Hokage office. He wanted to go straight home for dinner. However, in the end, he patted his forehead. Forget it, it's too much trouble to leave this matter until tomorrow morning, so I'd better go and inform it now. At the same time, on the streets of Konoha village. Although it was late, the Konoha village was still crowded and brightly lit. Li Yi walked ahead. Violet followed behind. Grumbled Tilda. Suddenly, Violet's stomach made a hungry cry. Violet cheeks a Yuhi. Li Yi asked with a smile, hungry. The Violet head tapped. Then let's go eat. I'm hungry too. Li Yi patted his stomach and said with a smile. They hurried a day's journey, but only ate a few mouthfuls of dry food. Can they not be hungry? Do you like ramen? Li Yi asked again. My lord, I have never eaten ramen. Violet replied. That's good, try it. Li Yi smiled slightly and brought Violet to the Ichiraku ramen restaurant. Uncle, here are 2 ramen. As soon as the curtain was lifted to enter, Li Yi said. Ichiraku is sitting on the stage. Hearing Li Yi's words, Uncle Ichiraku's body trembled slightly. He turned his head sharply to look at Li Yi. Li Yi, are you still alive? Ichiraku asked, surprised and happy. The 7 ninja swordsmen arrested 18 people in Konoha village, 17 of them were dead, and only Li Yi was left, but they also disappeared. Previously, Li Yi had been included in the list of missing persons in the Country of Fire. Almost everyone felt that Li Yi must have died too, including Uncle Ichiraku. Now, seeing Li Yi come back alive, Uncle Ichiraku is very pleasantly surprised. Uncle Ichiraku, why am I listening? Are you cursing me with these words? Li Yi asked with a smile. How could I curse you? I'm just surprised, I can't believe it. Ichiraku hurriedly shook his head. Li Yi said, seriously, Uncle Ichiraku, I'm back. Uncle Ichiraku only felt a sore tip of his nose. It's good to come back, it's good to come back. Uncle Ichiraku has a good relationship with Li Yi's parents. Since Li Yi's parents died, Uncle Ichiraku has taken good care of Li Yi. Every time Li Yi came to eat ramen, he didn't want to take Li Yi's money. But he couldn't resist Li Yi's persistence. It is only right and proper to eat people's food and give people money. Where in the world is there any reason to eat free food? So, Uncle Ichiraku had to accept Li Yi's money. Of course, Uncle Ichiraku will give Li Yi a discount even if he is charged. All in all, Uncle Ichiraku is nice to Li Yi. Ichiraku's daughter, Ayame, is also very good to Li Yi. Li Yi has always regarded Ayame as his own sister. Ichiraku's family treats Li Yi very well and gives Li Yi a lot of warmth. Li Yi asked, Uncle Ichiraku, where is Ayame? The little girl is sleeping at home. After speaking, Uncle Ichiraku sighed again. Since you were taken away, she has been staying at home and never went out. As soon as these words came out, Li Yi's heart trembled. Ayame must have been so heartbroken that she didn't even do her job. Uncle Ichiraku, I'll go see her tomorrow. Li Yi said. No problem, no problem. Ichiraku nodded with a smile. Look at my brain, I've been talking to you, you've been here for so long, are you hungry? Ichiraku suddenly slapped his forehead and said, I'll give it to you, you wait. Speaking, Uncle Ichiraku went to the back kitchen and went to pull down the noodles. Li Yi smiled slightly. Ichiraku's family are real people. Since Li Yi crossed over, Uncle Ichiraku's family has given him countless warmth. In Li Yi's mind, many memory fragments emerged. He was trapped in fond memories. Before you know it, a scent wafts into your nose. grumbled Tilda. Smelling this fragrance, Li Yi's stomach let out a cry of protest. He came back to his senses, looked at Violet Lan, and said with a smile, "The ramen from Uncle Ichiraku's house is delicious." Second update. There is one more update. The next update is around 2200. The world is looking for silver tickets plus rewards. Chapter 77_Sensible Violet Part 3. 2 bowls of hot ramen were placed in front of Li Yi and Violet. The aroma hits the face. Grumbled Tilda. Violet's stomach made a hungry cry again. She wanted to feast on it. However, Li Yi hasn't even touched the chopsticks yet, how dare she do so? Therefore, she could only swallow a mouthful of saliva and watch it eagerly. "Thank you, Uncle Ichiraku." Li Yi looked at Uncle Ichiraku and said with a smile. "Don't be polite to me, eat quickly." Ichiraku smiled kindly. So, Li Yi no longer hesitated and started eating ramen. Seeing that Li Yi had moved his chopsticks, Violet ate gracefully. As the saying goes, eat without speaking, sleep without speaking. When eating, it is best not to talk. Therefore, Li Yi and Violet ate ramen in peace. After 10 minutes, Li Yi can be considered to have finished eating, and there is not a single mouthful of soup left. The violets have long been eaten. After all, she's a girl with a small appetite, so she didn't finish a bowl of ramen. But even so, she had a feeling of support. "How is it? Is it delicious?" Li Yi asked with a smile. The violet stinger nodded lightly. "Well, it's delicious." In fact, she also wanted to say, "If you and I like to eat ramen, then I can learn it, and Ten will give it to you in the future." But, in the end, Violet didn't say that. After all, in front of the ramen boss, wouldn't she be ruining the game if she said such a thing? Although Violet is simple, she still understands some worldly ways. At this time, Uncle Ichiraku pointed to Violet and asked with a smile, "Aren't you going to introduce me?" "Oh, her name is Uzumaki Violet, someone I met outside the village." Li Yi introduced. "Uzumaki Violet." Ichiraku blinked and asked, "So, she's not from our Konoha village?" Uzumaki clan, before exterminating their clan, established their own country, the country of Vortex. After the country was destroyed, the survivors of the Uzumaki clan were scattered all over the world. There are people who go to Konoha village and become Konoha villagers, such as Uzumaki Kushina. There are people who go to the country of rain and become citizens of the country of rain, such as Uzumaki Nagato. All in all, the survivors of the Uzumaki clan are now all over the world. However, there is only one Uzumaki tribe in Konoha village, and that is the famous Uzumaki Kushina. Therefore, after hearing Violet's name, Uncle Ichiraku concluded that she was not from Konoha village. Regarding Uncle Ichiraku's doubts, Li Yi did not hide it, and nodded, "That's right. We just came out of Lord Hokage's office, and Lord Hokage said that in 2 weeks, she will be able to become a member of our Konoha village." "Is that so?" Ichiraku nodded. He knows that people from other places who want to become people in Konoha village need to go through a lot of processes. But he didn't ask much. After all, it's a private matter. Conversed for a while. "Uncle Ichiraku, it's getting late, let's go." Li Yi got up and said. Violet got up. "Okay, stay safe on the road." Ichiraku reminded. Just finished eating hot ramen, and now the cool night wind blows, making Li Yi very comfortable. Li Yi's home is not too far from Ichiraku Ramen Restaurant. After a while, Li Yi brought Violet to the door. Li Yi took out a key from under a flower pot beside his right hand. It is the key to the door. Actually, it's a spare key. During these few days of running around, the master key on Li Yi's body was lost. So he can only use the spare key. Crunch. The door was opened. A faint musty smell wafted out of the room. Li Yi frowned slightly. He has not been home for 5 or 6 days. The food in the house is moldy. Violet smelled the musty smell too. Li Yi looked back at Violet and said, "You wait outside first, I'll go in and clean up." However, as soon as Li Yi finished speaking, Violet Lan said, "Sir, I'll help you clean up, you wait here." Violet is sincere. Li Yi thought for a moment. Finally nodding, "Okay, trouble you." Doing things for the adults, Violet is not too troublesome. Violet shook her head gently, her voice soft and comfortable. Then, Violet walked into the room. Li Yi stood at the door waiting. In fact, there is nothing precious in this house. No money for money, nothing for things, just a pile of moldy toilet paper. After all, Li Yi is a big man, and he also has physical needs. Violet cleans up quickly. 40 or 50 minutes later. After taking out the garbage, Violet walked over with a gray face and said, "Sir, I have finished cleaning up, and now I need to disinfect it, but you don't have disinfectant at home. Do you want me to buy it? It's getting late, the shops are closed, let's talk about it tomorrow." Li Yi shook his head slightly. "Okay, my lord." The Violet head tapped. Li Yi walked into the living room. The living room has been kept spotlessly clean. Shiny shiny. Li Yi walked into his room again. Originally, there was a lot of toilet paper on the ground. But now, these toilet papers have been put into the trash can. Li Yi old face a Yuhi. Although he is thick-skinned, he is also a little embarrassed in the face of this kind of thing. However, Li Yi still sighed in his heart. To have such a sensible beauty to take care of, it's a goddamn peace of mind. "Sir, are you satisfied?" At this moment, Violet asked weakly behind her. "Well done." Li Yi smiled with satisfaction. Violet breathed a sigh of relief. Looking at Violet's gray clothes and her pretty face, Li Yi said, "Go wash your clothes and take a shower." Huh. Violet opened her small mouth, and her cheeks instantly became Yuhi. "What's wrong?" Li Yi asked. "My lord, I didn't bring any clothes." Violet rubbed the corners of her skirt, her voice was low, her head bowed, Yuhi said with a face. "No clothes." Li Yi pointed to the bag at the door and asked, "Is there any clothes in there?" "Well, only one nightgown." Violet replied. Li Yi wanted to ask a question. "You are a girl, and you don't bring any clothes." However, in the end, Li Yi just said, "After taking a bath, you can just wear pajamas. If you feel inconvenient, you can put on my clothes first. I have a lot of clean clothes, all of which have been washed." "Okay, thank you sir." Violet Yuhi agreed with a face. "Go ahead." Li Yi waved his hand. "Okay, my lord." Violet took out the toiletries from the Li box, and walked into the bathroom. Li Yi sat on the sofa. Crash tilde. Although the door was separated, Li Yi could still hear the sound of Violet taking a bath. After all, he is a normal male, so in his mind, he can't help but start to imagine. The third update. Today's update is over. The world is looking for silver tickets plus rewards. Chapter 78 _ Take a Bath Part 1. Women are always slow to take a bath. The same goes for Violet's. 40 or 50 minutes later, Violet finished her bath. Li Yi had already fallen asleep on the sofa. Violet Yuhi walked out of the bathroom with a small face, wrapped in a bath towel. Seeing that Li Yi was actually asleep, Violet was stunned for a moment, but then heaved a sigh of relief. Everyone says that the allure of a woman after a bath is the greatest. Violet was worried that she would be forced by Li Yi in her current state. However, to be honest, in the bathroom, she was mentally prepared. Unexpectedly, Li Yi was already asleep. Li Yi was lying on the sofa, breathing evenly, apparently asleep. They've been on the road all day, and the adults are tired too. Violet thought. Afterwards, she intimately covered Li Yi with a layer of quilt. It's getting cooler at night. Li Yi didn't cover the quilt and fell asleep like this, he would probably catch a cold. After covering Li Yi with the quilt, Violet walked into the bathroom again and went to do the laundry. 20 or 30 minutes later, Violet finished the laundry and hung it on the balcony. Standing on the balcony, the cool night breeze blows. Ah, Tilda. Violet sneezed. On the fair skin, goosebumps arose all over. It's so cold. Violet folded her arms and hurried back to the house. At this point, Violet's body was already dry, and she put on Li Yi's clothes. Her yuhi hair, which was almost dry, was draped down to the tip of the ton and looked gorgeous. Violet then called Li Yi up. Sir, wake up and go to bed. Violet shook Li Yi gently, shaking him up. Li Yi slowly opened his eyes. Seeing Violet wearing her own clothes, Li Yi blinked. Afterwards, Li Yi teased and said, "Is this dress a little big?" The clothes Violet was wearing at this time was a beige dress. However, because Li Yi is much taller than Violet, this dress is quite contrary to her. Violet replied, "It's a bit bigger, but it fits and is very comfortable." Just be comfortable to wear. Li Yi stretched his waist. I'm also going to take a bath and then go to bed. After finishing speaking, Li Yi looked around and finally pointed to 2 rooms and asked, "Are you staying in my room or my parents' room tonight?" "Sir, aren't your parents at home?" Violet asked curiously. "They're all dead." Li Yi replied lightly. As soon as these words came out, Violet's expression changed and she hurriedly said, "Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Li Yi smiled and shook his head. "It's okay." In fact, to be honest, he treats the 2 parents without any affection. Before he crossed over, the couple had already died, leaving the original owner alone, who had been bullied in Konoha village. Therefore, Li Yi did not have the sadness that Violet thought. Violet looked up at Li Yi cautiously. Found that Li Yi was indeed not sad. She breathed a sigh of relief. "So, which room are you going to sleep in tonight?" Li Yi asked again. "Sir, if I sleep in your room, you will sleep in your parents' room?" Violet asked. "No, I'll just sleep here." Li Yi shook his head and patted the sofa. "Ah, how is this possible?" Violet shook her head immediately. "Well, my lord, you sleep on the bed, and I sleep on the sofa." Li Yi didn't argue with Violet about such trivial matters, and nodded. "All right, you can decide for yourself, I'll take a bath." "Okay, my lord." The Violet head tapped. Li Yi stood up from the sofa and stretched again. To be honest, he slept well just now, and he was suddenly called up, which made him a little uncomfortable. However, he also knows that sleeping after a bath will greatly improve the quality of sleep. Sharpening knives does not miss woodcutters. So, Li Yi started taking a shower. Violet is sitting on the sofa. She wanted to wait until Li Yi finished taking a shower, and then wash Li Yi's clothes. However, sitting on the sofa, she felt a little cold. Therefore, she put the quilt covered by Li Yi over her body. The warmth of the quilt enveloped the whole body. Comfortable. A drowsiness swept through Violet's mind. After a day of running around, Li Yi cleaned up the room again. Now that she has just finished taking a shower, the fatigue factor in Violet's whole body erupted at this moment. Therefore, Violet's eyelids drooped, her hands spread out, she leaned on the sofa and fell asleep. 20 minutes later. Li Yi finished taking a shower. Go out of the bathroom naked. Saw that Violet had fallen asleep. Li Yi blinked. Then smiled. Looks like she's too tired too. With a murmur, Li Yi walked towards Violet. Because Violet is now only equivalent to a 15 or 16-year-old girl, her body is very light. Li Yi picked her up without much effort. It seems that my physical strength has indeed improved a lot. Holding Violet in his arms, Li Yi smiled in satisfaction. Although Violet is indeed very light, it still weighs 70 to 80 jin. In the past, even if Li Yi tried his best, he might not be able to carry a 70 to 80 jin thing. And now, 70 or 80 pounds of things are in Li Yi's arms. And Li Yi didn't feel exhausted yet. This is a strong body. At this moment, Li Yi is looking forward to a stronger body. If his physique can be as strong as Might Dai, then, let alone something weighing 70 to 80 jin, even if it is 700 to 800 jin, it is probably as light as a feather in his hands. Li Yi wanted to be a gentleman and put Violet's on the bed. However, with Violet's height, sleeping on the bed would be a waste of space. On the sofa, it's really nice. And Li Yi's height, if he sleeps on the sofa, his feet may be hanging all the time. So, after thinking for a while, Li Yi took Violet back to the sofa again. You better sleep here. Li Yi gently squeezed Violet's soft and smooth pretty face and gave a wicked smile. Then, he covered Violet with a quilt. Violet didn't wake up. Apparently asleep. After doing all this, Li Yi stretched and yawned again. Seeing Violet sleep so soundly, he is sleepy now too. Therefore, without ink, he returned to the room. The room has been cleaned by Violet, and the quilt's sheets have been neatly folded. Li Yi threw himself on the bed and fell asleep. People say that time always flies by when doing what you love. For people who are extremely tired, sleeping and resting is something they like. Therefore, before Li Yi had enough rest, the early morning sun had already passed through the window and shone on his face. Li Yi slowly opened his eyes. He wanted to sleep a little longer. However, the smell from the kitchen made him unable to sleep. The first update. The next update is around 2050. The world seeks silver tickets plus rewards. Chapter 79 _ what chance? Second more. Violet is making breakfast in the kitchen. I have to say, Violet is very good at cooking. The smell wafting from the kitchen made Li Yi's stomach scream in protest. So, Li Yi got up and took a shower. When Li Yi finished packing, Violet finished cooking. She took her breakfast and walked out of the kitchen. Seeing Li Yi come out, she asked, "Sir, when did you wake up? Did I mess with you?" "No." Li Yi shook his head slightly. "It didn't bother me. But it smells good to me." "That's fine." Violet nodded lightly, and she put her breakfast on the table, then unbuttoned her apron with her hands behind her back. "Sir, are you hungry? Breakfast is ready," Violet said. "Well, I'm a little hungry indeed." Li Yi nodded lightly and sat down on the chair. "Let's eat together." He greeted Violet to the opposite side. The two were eating and talking. During this period, Li Yi told Violet about his real situation. Before, Li Yi lied to Violet, saying that he was a medical ninja in Konoha village, etc. However, these lies will all be self-defeating once they come to Konoha village. Therefore, Li Yi needs to explain. Moreover, for the next 2 weeks, Violet will be taken to a place that Li Yi doesn't know, to be investigated and brainwashed in Konoha village. Li Yi did not want to lose such a precious subordinate. Therefore, before this departure, he would like to ask a few words. About an hour later, Li Yi and Violet finished eating. The conversation between the two also ended. "That's all I want to tell you," Li Yi said. "Do you have any other doubts?" Violet rubbed between her brows, thought for a moment, then shook her head gently. "Sir, I have no problem." "That's fine." Li Yi nodded lightly. Estimated the time. The ninjas of Konoha village should be here soon. Sure enough, the next moment. Boom. There was a knock on the door from outside the room. "It should be the one who picked you up," Li Yi said. Violet's delicate body trembled slightly. To be honest, she didn't want to leave Li Yi. After all, in this strange village, she only knew Li Yi. But she didn't say much in the end. She didn't want to trouble Li Yi. By this time, Li Yi had already stood up and opened the door. Crunch. The door was opened. A faint scent of fragrance came to me. At this time, standing outside the room was a very beautiful woman. Uchiha Makoto. Li Yi frowned. Could it be that it was Uchiha Makoto who came to pick up Violet? Uchiha Makoto cut to the chase and asked directly, "When did you come back?" "Last night," Li Yi replied. Why didn't you let me know? Was a hint of reproach in Uchiha Makoto's tone. Last night, after coming out of Lord Hokage's office, it was late. Lee Yi said. I mean, why don't you come to me after you're outside the village? Uchiha Makoto asked. Because of Uchiha Madara, the Uchiha family was disgusted by the second-generation Hokage, so they were expelled from the Konoha village, and the tribe lived outside the Konoha village. Before, Lee Yi did plan to find Uchiha Makoto. Otherwise, he would not be able to enter the village with Violet. But unexpectedly, he met Might Dai and others. Therefore, he did not go to the Uchiha family. Now, when asked by Uchiha Makoto, Lee Yi answered truthfully. So it is. Uchiha Makoto nodded. Suddenly, her nose moved slightly. Huh. Are you ready to eat? She asked. I didn't do it, it was Violet. Lee Yi said. She's at your house now. Uchiha Makoto's beautiful eyes shrank slightly. Yes. Lee Yi nodded. Uchiha Makoto was silent for a while, then rolled his eyes and asked, I haven't had breakfast, can we have it together? But Violet only made it for two. Lee Yi replied. Don't worry, I have a small appetite. Uchiha Makoto smiled. Then, without Lee Yi's consent, Uchiha Makoto squeezed into the room. Lee Yi raised his eyes. Afterwards, Lee Yi had to close the door. Because Violet's clothes are not dry yet, she is still wearing Lee Yi's clothes. Uchiha Makoto, consciously, sat next to Violet. Makoto's sister, do you want to eat too? Violet had just finished her breakfast and asked. Yes. Uchiha Makoto smiled slightly, and nodded lightly. I've got some in the kitchen. I'll get you. Violet is about to get up. Lee Yi said, Uchiha Makoto, if you want to eat it, take it yourself, the kitchen is over there. Uchiha Makoto gave Lee Yi a deep look, but she didn't say much, just nodded lightly, okay. 7 or 8 minutes later. Uchiha Makoto also finished eating. Wiping her mouth gracefully, she asked, so, Violet won't be here for the next 2 weeks, right? That's right. Lee Yi nodded. Uchiha Makoto nodded lightly, touched his chin, and whispered to himself, well, this is an opportunity. What chance? Lee Yi frowned. Uchiha Makoto was taken aback. She felt that her voice was so small that no one else could hear it. But I didn't expect that Lee Yi would actually hear it. Immediately shyly smiled and said, nothing, nothing. Lee Yi felt something was wrong. He wanted to keep asking. But at this moment, boom. The knock on the door sounded again. Uchiha Makoto said, it should be the person who picked up the violets. Lee Yi got up and opened the door. Door stood 4 ninjas from Konoha village. Lee Yi only knew one person, and that was the leader of the 4, Nara Shikaku. Seeing Lee Yi, Nara Shikaku said immediately, Lee Yi, let's pick up Uzumaki Violet. Lee Yi nodded cooperatively, okay. So, Uchiha Makoto took the violet and walked out of the room. Seeing Uchiha Makoto, Nara Shikaku glared and asked, Makoto's sister, why are you here? It's morning, a woman, staying in a man's house. Must have stayed for the night. So, Nara Shikaku was very shocked. Seeing Nara Shikaku, Uchiha Makoto said, oh, it's Shikaku brother, you are in charge of this operation. No, that's right. In front of Uchiha Makoto, even a young and mature person like Nara Shikaku was a little flustered at this time, and he couldn't help but stutter. In the next 2 weeks, treat Violet well and don't treat her badly. Uchiha Makoto patted Nara Shikaku on the shoulder. Looking at Uchiha Makoto's little white hands. Okay, Makoto-san, don't worry. Nara Shikaku seems to be greatly inspired, with high fighting spirit, and nods hard. Second update. The world is asking for a reward plus asking for a silver ticket. Chapter 80 _ Cohabitation Life Begins Part 1. In the end, Violet followed the four. Watching the back of Violet leaving, Uchiha Makoto asked, "Will you be willing?" "What's wrong?" Lee Yi stood beside Uchiha Makoto, shaking his head with a smile. "If it were me, I would be very reluctant," Uchiha Makoto said. "So, that's the difference between the two of us," Lee Yi said with a smile. "Really?" Uchiha Makoto gave Lee Yi a deep look. "That girl obeys you, it's interesting." 3 generations of Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen let Uchiha Makoto monitor Lee Yi. So, from now on, she will use various means to determine whether Lee Yi is a spy. Lee Yi replied indifferently, "I saved her life, and she obeyed me only as she should." Oh. Uchiha Makoto didn't know about Violet. She pretended to be surprised and asked, "You saved my life too, do you want me to obey you too?" "If you want that, then I won't say no," Lee Yi said with a smile. Uchiha Makoto said no more, but stared at Lee stubbornly. She wanted to see a clue from Lee Yi's body. "Look at what I do. Look at how handsome I am." Lee Yi patted his face and asked with a smile. Uchiha Makoto asked suspiciously, "You didn't do anything too bad to other girls, did you?" "What is excessive?" Lee Yi spread his hands. "For me, killing and setting fires is too much. For you, what is the point?" "You know what I'm talking about," Uchiha Makoto said. Lee Yi turned to look at Uchiha Makoto, tilted his head, and asked, "Why should I answer your question?" "I'm curious," Uchiha Makoto said. "Then continue to be curious, come on." Lee Yi patted Uchiha Makoto on the shoulder. Uchiha Makoto frowned slightly. She hates when people, especially men, have physical contact with her. However, for some reason, she didn't feel disgusted with Lee Yi. Was what Lee Yi said that could always choke her. Lee Yi turned and walked into the room. Uchiha Makoto did not follow into the room, but turned and left. But she left a sentence. "Lee Yi, we'll see you in half an hour." Lee Yi shrugged nonchalantly. Back at home, Lee Yi sat on the sofa, squinting and touching his chin, his eyes flashing with light, obviously thinking. "I escaped from the hands of the 7 ninja swordsmen, and I still have several means. The 3 generations of Hokage will definitely suspect me and investigate everything about me. I just don't know, who will he send to investigate me? Is it Nara Shikaku? Possibly. Or Uchiha Makoto? Possibly. Or Anbu? All in all, in the next period of time, I should honestly do my duty, otherwise it will be troublesome if someone catches the handle." After thinking for a long time, Lee Yi finally made a decision. 3 generations of Hokage do not believe in Violet's identity. In fact, they indirectly do not believe in themselves. If he believes in himself, then, he will believe in Violet. Therefore, in the next period of time, he had to be honest, in order to gain the trust of the 3 generations of Hokage and others. Only by gaining trust can I do things more easily in this village, Lee Yi whispered to himself. Just when Lee Yi was thinking. Boom. There was a knock on the door. Lee Yi came back to his senses, got up, and opened the door. Uchiha Makoto is here. He also carried a large bag of Lee in his hand. Lee Yi frowned slightly. Uchiha Makoto explained, "Didn't we agree before that after you go back to Konoha village, I will live with you and teach you how to use your bloodline boundaries?" Lee Yi asked directly, "Which room do you want to sleep in?" "This room belongs to my parents and this room belongs to me." "I sleep with you," Uchiha Makoto replied without thinking. "Actually, you can sleep in my parents' room," Lee Yi said. "No, I'm going to sleep in your room." Uchiha Makoto shook his head flatly. "In fact, no matter which world you live in, the living have a deep taboo on the dead." Lee Yi's parents were killed in battle, so Uchiha Makoto didn't want to live in the room where they lived. She didn't want to touch this taboo. Lee Yi visually measured Uchiha Makoto's height. "Shorter than yourself. Taller than Violet's." Lee Yi said, "Actually, you can still sleep on the sofa." Sleeping on the sofa. Uchiha Makoto's beautiful eyes glared slightly. I am your guest, you actually let me sleep on the sofa. For Uchiha Makoto's question, Lee Yi just wanted to answer, I didn't ask you to come. Finally, after a heated discussion, the two decided. Uchiha Makoto sleeps on Lee Yi's bed. Lee Yi sleeps on the sofa. Looking at Uchiha Makoto who was cleaning the room, Lee Yi touched his chin, a look of doubt appeared on his face, and said in his heart, logically speaking, Uchiha Makoto should be a gentle, suave woman, full of wife attributes. However, until now, her marital attributes have not been revealed at all. Could it be that her character has changed, causing it to be different from the original? Or is it that the attributes of a wife are just her hidden character, which will only be revealed after marriage? Today, Uchiha Makoto's character is revealed, that is, a smart, clever, positive, optimistic and calm. But not suave, cymbidium heart. This made Lin Chen quite puzzled. At the same time, Uchiha Makoto took out Lee Yi's quilt and sheets and replaced them with his own. Her quilt and sheets are pink yuhi color and look very warm. Tisk tisk, girlishness. Lee Yi sighed. After about an hour. Both are finished. Uchiha Makoto washed his hands and walked out of the bathroom. Lee Yi asked, you live with me now, what do your family say? According to Namikaze Minato, Uchiha Makoto's father is the captain of the Konoha village guard and the head of the Uchiha clan. Therefore, Uchiha Makoto is now living with him, a young girl in bloom, living under the same roof with a big man. If this spreads out, it may damage her reputation. No, replace the word, maybe, with the word, definitely. Lee Yi did not ask whether Uchiha Makoto's family agreed or not. Since Uchiha Makoto is here now, it means that her family must agree with this matter. But unexpectedly, after hearing the words, Uchiha Makoto shook his head and said, actually, they don't agree with this matter, they strongly oppose it. Hearing this, Lee Yi blinked. Uchiha Makoto continued, if there is no accident, wait, the guards will send someone. Hear this. Lee Yi. The first update. The third update today. The next update is around 21:30. The world is asking for silver tickets for a reward.